Okay, everybody, welcome. As I continue with another episode of Photoshop 101, I do have some music going in the background because one thing I do need is music to be kind of creative. It's always there for me. So if Twitch does censor mute some of this, because of that I apologize, but when it hits YouTube, their copyright rules will allow me to still have music in the background, and whoever the creator of that music is, they get credits, which I don't really care for it that much. So, that being said, that's a beautiful segue into the fact that I'm going to be talking a little bit about copyright, as well as putting together a splash page. Now, I have grabbed some resources ahead of time for what we're going to be doing to put together a little bit of a splash page for Elder Scrolls. If you are familiar, I already do have one that I've put together. This one here, which combines several elements, and I'll be showing you how a lot of these were created today. As Photoshop 101 is splash screen and copyright bullshit. I mean, copyright rules. Alright, first thing to note, if you are a streamer, or you are someone that is more than just Twitch now, there's several other apps for it, and you want to do what I'm doing, like a splash page for the game or whatever that you're going to be doing, most of the time, as long as you're not making money off of it in the sense of you're selling it as your own product but it's their logo, if you are playing their game when you're doing it, you're giving them advertising. Most companies are pretty cool with that, but you always want to double check. Bethesda, which is Fallout and Elder Scrolls, I already checked with them and they're totally cool with it. They even have packages of imagery that you can get for purposes of doing your own website or splash page or anything for their product. Blizzard Entertainment was a little stingy at first. I have not really done stuff with them that much, but things like Blizzard, they had a certain requirement or thing before you could start using their logo or splashing it around. They were more controlling of their IP. So the first thing would be to check is literally ask, hey, is it okay if I use your logo? I'm a streamer or that, or I'm doing a review, or if you whatever your medium might be. But if you're trying to create something in that world and then you might try and sell it for money for some reason, that's a definite no-no. That should be realized. The other thing is, there are a few outlets out there to help you out, and one of those is called Creative Commons. Most images will be marked with CC, and what Creative Commons is usually a group of images, sound effects, or elements that are allowed to be used for public use, and most of the time it's not for commercial use either, because that's the biggest thing for copyright. If you're really looking to make money off of this and effectively selling this image or sound as your own, as part of a product, that is where you want to watch out. There are certain sites that you can get imagery, music, and sound effects, and you can pay a certain price to have so many releases with that stuff with it. But in general, if you're just doing it for streaming, for personal use, for educational use, being safe with Creative Commons, you can put it into a search engine as well, is one way to go for your image stock. Take your own images, images. Certain sites are public domain once you take a photograph of it. Some things may have stringent national parks and certain things may have some stringencies against their image being used, because if you use it in a defacing manner, then there's arguments of free speech and a few other things that. But putting together a catalog of your own stock footage, like cameras are available everywhere. When I was growing up, we had to develop the film and all that bullshit, but now you can pull your phone out and take an image. And suggested stuff would be textures. So many things that you might use as a background or other elements. This folder that I've got in actually has quite a few textures in it that we'll be pulling from paper to stone to leather, to generic scroll, which I do believe you can find a Creative Commons sample of this scroll. And it's funny, once you discover this element, how many other developers, gamers, and all that stuff use the same scroll. It's, but all these different elements we're going to be looking at pulling together. to put together a new splash screen. It is also very important to not think you can get away with just taking a bit of an image or manipulating it enough because of metadata. Back when I was going to school, metadata they had back then was literally microdot technology from the good old 60s, 70s Cold War was being used in advertising. Photographs were made up of pixels. We haven't really gotten to the fact that pixel, by the way, geek moment, is the short form of picture elements. Pic-L. And then that pic-L became pixel. That's how pixel came about. But anyways, the pixel elements, within the pixel elements was copyright information of that photograph. Meaning a person back in the old days could use a little magnifying thing and see the little pixel mark, which was the logo and the symbol for the company, if they felt this person was using a photograph that belonged to them. That technology has gotten even deeper with encoding inside the image itself. As soon as you take a picture, there's so much metadata that is put into that picture. And on Google and other places, there's now websites where you can put a picture in and it will take that metadata and try and find out for you where it originally came from. So because of this, don't try to get away with it. Try and get away, well, don't use the term get away. Try to just get stuff that you won't have to worry about or lose sleep over. Again, as long as it's for private use, teaching at times, there's still elements on that. Though the biggest one is if you're going to gain a substantial financial from the image you're working with, or sometimes for celebrities or other things, if it's going to be bad press or PR to them, that costs them money. So again, it's money is the big disc for copyright. In Canada, there's actually a few easy ways to copyright stuff that if it's original to yourself. U.S. laws have changed a lot. I'm from when I was working in the industry a long time, but in Canada, like some of the ones of literally mailing it to yourself is one of the old ones for copyright that's still good. But the very important thing is don't open the mail when it comes to you. The whole purpose of it to be unopened and has a federal or government stamp on it, which is the postal service, that's what's serving for the copyright. If you open it when it shows up, then you just kind of ruined that little moment. So that's a brief note. Again, Creative Commons is pretty good. If I let just go right now and just go onto a Google, hey Ellie, how are you doing? We're talking about the fun stuff like Creative Commons and quick copyright and stuff. But if you even just do a search for Creative Commons, the bang, there's their logo, and basically all the information you need to know on it. And there are certain websites that actually do have licensing. You know, a lot of people just love to design stuff for the web. And I was just saying as I started, we're going to be doing a splash page like my one for Elder Scrolls for Bethesda's IP Elder Scrolls. And I was just saying they are really cool. I talked to, I was saying to the viewers to double check with gaming companies. Some of them love you using their logo and product as long as it's advertising their product. I know Blizzard was a stickler at times, and they had some things they had set up that you had to adhere to and all that, but I think they may have loosened up more because free advertising. So that was what we're talking about. But always good to get in touch with that. And then Creative Commons here, more that matters, all the information that goes on, and of course COVID being everywhere right now. But there's at Creative Commons they have images, sound, music, all these different things that you can use for your own projects there. And like I said, with phones being as common as they are, Blizzard used to have asset packs that you had to use, and some other restrictions. Bethesda was the one PR person that got back to me, and she gave me a nice link of stuff as well. She gave me some packages, but she said feel free to use anything that you want. Again, just for the streaming purposes. And I was also saying that like Division and other things from Ubisoft and all them, they have packages that you get, and as long as you take the stuff from inside the package, they're probably pretty good with it. If you just rip stuff off their website, then they might have issues with some of that as well. But it's one thing, and also music. Like I was just saying right now, I have to have a little bit of music in the background as I play, so I might get muted on Twitch. I apologize, but check the YouTube channel out because their copyright, if they detect a breach, they will give the author of that breach the credit on YouTube, allowing me to still have a little bit of music in the background. I myself won't get any money from the advertising on it, but I'm not really using the YouTube as my income platform, so I'm okay with that. And I actually like that a little bit because then I don't have to be too concerned about the music finally, you know. But yeah, so that was a little bit that I was starting on. And that was the, what is it? What's that phrase you kids all use today? Too long, didn't read, you know, the TDL, the letter thingies, right? But if you have any other questions, feel free to just send me a Discord message. Discord is the linky. Thank you very much, Ellie. And how have you been? How is your lockdown? I noticed when I quickly took a look at the Maritime streamers. Ooh, I don't have your logo on my... I just realized I have a minimalist desktop right now. But you see here on the island, we're all good. We've shut down the bridge except for no personal vehicles. The ferries and the airport's closed, and we're building up the zombie wall right now as we speak. It's going to be a good 30-40 feet with miniguns posted at certain spots. And we're all set. We're going to survive this. So I grabbed some images, and let's just open up in Photoshop here. And we're going to go for... Doing okay being swamped with in real life stuff. Oh, yeah? You're able to work from home, aren't you? I think, weren't you already working from home for some of your projects and work? Mm-hmm. Alrighty, I had been going through some images here to take a look. Yeah, I work from home. So it's like, oh no, how's it affecting you? You're gonna have to work from home. For me, I'm just letting this beard grow and discovering how bad I can't grow a beard properly. Just, you know, it's kind of just mostly in the front, and sides are just seeing how scruffy I can get. Alrighty, so let us take a peek here. You know, we're on reduced salary and for a couple of weeks staggered. Yeah. How society collapses, not with a bang, but with a whimper. Oh, I had to say it. It's true. I mean, you know. And if you want to believe some of the conspiracy theories out there, oh my gosh, there are some pretty good ones. And I do wish to inform some of the major paranoid individuals in a certain country just south of Canada that it didn't start in the U.S. Everyone's suffering it. So it would be kind of diabolic if it really was an entire plot. Though people making money off of it is the sad truth. They may not have started it, but there's a lot of people out there now making tons of money off of the fear. But we won't get too political into all of this. But yeah, too late, I know. All right, so let's take a look. Yep, alrighty. So again, I'll show you that little, what I was talking about is the little splash screen that I got going that I put together for Elder Scrolls. I'm going to be putting together a new one and showing how things like layer, blending modes, and layer effects can be applied to create a little bit of a photorealistic like image for you. I've also got up here. Let me now go to normal mode. There we go. I got. There was no undoing that. So, damn you. There we go. Good. It is somewhat. There we go. I got my little mobile camera here. So, that's what I'm going to do. So what we're going to do is we're going to work with a new one, create a new desktop, create new, and we're going to go for No. Those are customs. If you do a copy and paste, it will remember your customs. Untitled. No. What is my screen resolution? Oh my god. 1910. Oh wait, I know this. Shush. Display settings. I know my resolution. Don't judge. No, that's the second monitor. What? It's recommended? That's not what my monitor is. What? That's not right. Wait, hold on. Which one's selected? That's why. That's the right one selected. There we go. 19, 20, 18. There we go. Don't judge. Shush. I got lazy. I'll be totally honest. I got lazy, and I just bring up the same templates all the time. So I forget the little things like. There we go. Resolution for display is 72. That's all you're gonna have to worry about, guys. Let's go. Just actually save this. Monitor 1. And there we go. So now I've got monitor 1 as a preset. So if I'm designing stuff. Alrighty. So edit and image size. Let's change that from inches to pixels. There we go. There we go. Okay. So now we've got ourselves the letterbox like display of my monitor up here. We're going to be also showing you guys how to throw together. Let me close this window. I don't need it anymore. Thank you. Hey, Snow Hermit! How are you doing? I have to say, Snow Hermit is such a better name than Hateful Jerk. Ladies and gentlemen, this is a toast. It's just one glass, I swear, guys. It's a port, too, so it's an aperitif. So you only have sips. Snow Hermit, he's a long-time viewer to this channel. And seriously, I was a little concerned because his name was a Hateful Jerk. That was his original name. And I thought he was just some sort of a hidden troll or something like that was just going to be spewing stuff in chat and all that. But he is one of the best viewers and good friend, I'd like to say, back in the old province of Ontario. Totally a troll. But he's a really good soul, man. Cool guy. And I'm glad to see you in chat. How are you doing, Snow Hermit? How is the COVID virus affecting you? I'm not going to say anything about it on stream, but I know you had a new job. And I know what that job was, and I'll let you speak as much as you want about it, but that must have affected it like immensely, what you were doing with this stuff happening. I hope you're doing well, and I hope financially you're doing well. But, also, this stream may go longer than an hour, because it sounds funny compared to the last episode. I think I know what I'm doing now. So, did that freeze? Or is that just the... I'm refreshing my channel here, guys. Nope, it didn't. I've been outside. I'm out of work, but still paid until May at the earliest. They're thinking of shutting down until September, though. Well, my industry on the island, like a lot of people from farmers, fishermen, and my vocation now, it's tourist based for me. So farmers and fishermen seem to still be okay, but the tourist industry that comes up in the summer, it's probably not going to come up. So that's my big fear. I'm still like the way they don't call it unemployment insurance out here. They call it employment insurance, because a lot of people are seasonal workers. But I'm supposed to be this month. I'm supposed to be going in for a food and safety check, but I think not going to that meeting is the pass. Sorry, but since the first cruise ships, at best prediction, are not going to be starting to book until that's the other thing. That is separate. Currently, I do qualify for EI, so I don't qualify for the $2,000 as far as I know. But if my EI runs out, then I do qualify for the $2,000. Which, ironically, though, I'm going to look into because that $2,000 a month is a little bit more than I'm getting with EI, and I don't know if there'll be any differences. It may change when my scheduled work period shows up and I can't work because of it. Currently, my scheduled work period is not starting, so I don't qualify for that. But as soon as it does, I probably will qualify for an additional chunk of money to help out during this time. But I'm getting stir crazy, and I'm the introvert that is in a rustic environment. That's the irony right there. So let us try to go. So let's continue with developing the new Elder Scrolls style for my new splash screen. And as I stated, they are all spiffy unhappy with us using their stuff to advertise them. And like I said, Snow Hermit, at the beginning of this, I quickly went over some copyright issues and concerns when designing. It will be showing up on my YouTube channel with the first very raw and horrible, I will say. I really hate that. I might even remove the first episode, guys. It was really horrible. I was so on edge and nervy, but now I've got a better idea of format, so you might be lucky enough to have seen that episode before it gets pulled off YouTube. But this will be officially episode number 1 then, and we'll just ignore the others. So, just jumping right in, as I had mentioned before, let me just close this here. We've got this at the side. There is an app. Let me just, I don't want to go full screen because I want to just show you guys how easy you can just drag and drop or whatever, but I might do. Boop. And I will be moving my camera around. I think until the layers get too big, I can throw my camera down here because the layers are important. I want you guys to see how that works. And I think I can drag that in a little bit more. Look at that. We can just even do that right now. There we go. So now I'm fitting in a bit. I've always wanted to fit in. Tear. Okay, so the background has been set for my screen resolution for what I'd be streaming. So let's start creating some layers here. Down here. Oh, by the way, fonts are important. Fonts also run certain copyright things, but those are a little tougher to bring up. Some fonts, you look at them and you think, oh, Dark Crystal or anything like that, and even the font's called Dark Crystal, so guess what? You know, those, Star Trek has its own font, but slight manipulations or changes to those fonts are a little tougher to fight for, but never underestimate the power of that. But other words with fonts. Fonts are a tougher area of copyright, which have a lot of variance to them. Okay, so let's go. The original one that you saw had a stone background, a book, and a scroll. The scroll is being used for chat, so people, while waiting, could see the chat going up. The book on the side was fully created, and not just the pages, the binding, everything was put together. And I'm going to show you how I kind of put those together, including the bevel and emboss on the stonework. But we're going to go for maybe a different look now. Instead of the stone, we're probably looking at doing a leather. So first thing we're going to do is, well, we're just going to save our project. It's going to be a Photoshop file, and I am going to put this in the desktop right now in this little splash screen folder. I'm going to put it in here, and we're just going to call it ESO Splash. That's good enough for me. And right now, by default, it starts you off as a Photoshop file. You drag, so you click, and down here are several different files. I will be doing an episode talking about lossless and lossy file formats, which are very important if you want to keep things nice and crisp. We will be probably saving our final product as a PNG file, which is lossless file format, meaning it keeps full data information. Also, it's good for transparencies if you have any transparent elements. This project will not have any transparent elements, but right now it's the work file, so we're just saving it as a Photoshop file, and we'll just save that now. Other little notes is RGB color 8 is the default, which is what will be perfectly fine for what we're working on. So if we want to add new elements, we could go here and we could go to new and open up a file like anyone else does. Sorry, open, I mean, not new, new means a new file. Open, you can open up a file. Bridge is a file finder on steroids created by Adobe as well. I don't currently have it installed on my machine. I went to show it today and I'm like, oh, I haven't got it, I haven't downloaded it yet. But right now for what we need, it's an overkill, because what it does tell you is a lot of metadata that we were talking about earlier in photographs, metadata, when it was taken, other elements, and allows you to see the images a lot crisper than just a thumbnail in a folder. So Bridge is really nice when you're working on a full project and you want to see all your assets as you're pulling them together. Or, like I showed you earlier, you could just drag and drop into Photoshop. So where is the leather I wanted to use? The gaming mat, I think, was a close enough file. Now, I could just drag it here and put it onto the file, but I advise don't do that, because what's going on is it is sourcing the material, meaning I drag and drop it, and in Photoshop it sees that as gaming mat 2 PNG, and that file itself cannot be manipulated. But it's nice if you've got everything you need in one image and you just drag it over that image. That's one way of doing it if you don't want to manipulate that image anymore. But if you drag it up here, the icon will change to the words copy. You'll notice the icons do change. You got the plus, I'm adding a image layer. But if you go up here where the little tabs are, you get the copy. And if you make a copy up here, it brings in a copy of that file, that material that you've got, and now you can just drag and drop it into that. If you hold down the shift button when you go to add a file like this, it will put it in the dead center of your project. So again, if you were just dragging, dropping it from the one tab to the other tab and you want it to be dead center, you can. And you can see our first dilemma. I always told you that it's really good to where is it? Will this be a VOD? Yes, it will be a VOD. I'm sorry, I'm just getting back to chat here. It'll be on my YouTube channel. It'll be on the featured one on the YouTube channel. So the first one was really bad and sketchy, and like I said, may not exist. This may suddenly become the first one. I was just all nerves and scared, and it had been a while since I'd taught again, so I'm happy to say I'm back to it though. So, as I had stated in that horrible first video though, it's always easier to have images that are larger than you need, because when you shrink them down to fit, you're not losing any information. But if you have a small image and you have to blow it up to fit your image, you're going to lose quality of the image unless it's vector based, and we will talk about vector based in another channel, in another episode. But the average photograph or picture or an element that's made up of pixels proper, when expanded, will start to degrade. Now Photoshop over the years has gotten better and better at improvising those missing pixels in between. And in this case, as you can see, this beautiful little leather texture that I've got here isn't cutting it. It is not the full size. So what I'm going to have to do is enlarge it. And I advise against it, so here's me breaking my first rule right off the bat. So we're going to go to Edit, and also we have the layer selected, and for now let's change that to Real Background. Real Background. We may never use this layer here that you see. It's a locked layer, and it's really good for centering stuff. I'll show you how you can center stuff without just the shift when you drag and drop it. But having a locked layer in the background to help center stuff later on is useful. And you can turn it off if you needed it to be a GIF. If you needed to have a blank background or whatever it might be. So we call this the real background. Very good to label your layers because, as I said, you might seem like it's so easy to do now. You just click on the word and type. Before, you have to right-click, enter new name, hit enter. It was a pain in the butt, but now there's no excuse. Because when you have a project with several layers, it gets annoying. Is that layer 47 or layer 62? Alrighty. So what we want to do is go under Edit, and we're going to transform this layer. We are going to do a scaling. Now you can do free transform, which will have a lot of the commands built in, but here we go. We're going to go to scale. So it's down under Edit, transformation, scale. And you'll notice we get the little binding box buttons here. One thing I want to make sure is up here. This is your information for scaling. You can type in numbers if you want to manually do it, but make sure this little guy here is locked. It usually is, which means aspect ratios will stay the same when I'm enlarging. So in this case here, I am just going to drag this guy up, and we're going to see how much trouble we get into when we bring this up. Now, over the years, if I grab this one, it's still expanding, so it's going to go beyond my borders. There we go. But Photoshop is pretty good at figuring it out now. It's still not advisable that much, especially if you're doing a pristine photo print. It's horrible. Aperture Entity lurking and listening. Thank you very much. So now we've done that. Up here, you've got your little check mark and your, oh my god, I didn't mean to do it. And bang, we've now done that. It has scaled pretty nice to the screen. Fun fact, this icon here, history, if you don't have it, again, if I'm describing a window that isn't showing up on your version of Photoshop, all your windows belong to us. Sorry. All your windows are here. Different ones you can have turned on or turned off are just available to you up here. But this one, if you click on it, it's your history, and it is literally from the first time you open the file up. I think it's by default it has 25 or 30 saves before it starts rewriting the last one. So literally every little thing you do. Again, I'm going to the police now in my head for music. But as you can see, it keeps track of your different things. So if you've made a mistake, you can go back and Control Z, or here in Canada, Control Z, is the key for going back. Yep. I had to look down at the keyboard because I do it instinctively. I'm like, okay, yeah. And you can also create photographs of a certain moment, like you got unlayered when you first open the file. That will always be there. So until you save the file, it will go back to the first moment when it was like untitled when you first started the project. Alrighty. Hello, Jay. Can we ask doubts? What doubts can we ask? Well, you can ask questions. Sure. We're talking. We had a brief moment of copyright at the beginning of the episode, and we're going to be showing how to put together like a splash page. It's a good way to let you guys know more about Photoshop layers, layer effects, and also blending modes is what we're looking at doing in today's episode. Alrighty, so first off, we've got this nice little background, and we're going to kind of change up things, because where do I put my text? I don't even have text in my new layout. See, my old layouts, do I just have any of my old layouts here? I'm just going to jump to an old layout here. I don't know how the camera is set up, because alright, so I'm going to jump to this one as I just did. That's the Star Trek layout that I did. My camera would be positioned in the lower left-hand corner there. I mean, these are some of the interfaces that I have put together. My favorite one, though, guys, this is my favorite one, the Fallout interface, because I've taken elements from the game. I have taken there is a little bit of stuff I think is turned off. Give me a second. Yep, here it is. Fallout Fridays, that was a poster I did back when that was doing that. I also used this interface when I was doing Mutant Year Zero. I see a theme happening. 7 days, Mutant Year Zero, Fallout. Oh, here it is. Vault Boy. I know I was missing him somewhere. There he is. And also I use this for Outer Worlds. Starting soon. There was another logo. Where is it? Fallout interface. There we go. Where is that different? Oh, it does a little bit faded in on the side. No logo interface. If I turn that off, oops, where's my other logo interface? I know I had another one. Fallout testing screen. Oh, I must have gotten rid of it. But basically, that whole interface with the rusted metal and all that was all put together. But let's go back to our Photoshop image. There we go. All right. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to I did use the scroll last time. I did use the scroll last time for our text to show up, right? But I think we're going to do a couple of books. And the books themselves, because Elder Scrolls books, I like it. And we could just, I have a couple of book images. I even have a book PNG file that came from Elder Scrolls, like an actual book image. But I'm going to kind of show you how to put together a book. Ingredients we are looking at doing for this is, I don't know which leather texture I like more. That is a large one, so I can shrink that down. What's the size on this one? That one's a small one. So we're going to go with a larger because it's good to work large. Again, I'm just going to drag that up to the copy area. Bring a copy of this one. This is looking pretty good. And now I'm going to just drag it. Again, I'm using the move tool, which is, oh my gosh, cancel. I don't remember my shortcuts that well because I do it V. V is the one for that one. Just roll over it. It will tell you. It's good that way. But so go here and we're dropping that down. And as you can see, this is huge. This is mega huge. So we're going to go transform and we're going to go scale again. And you can see it's out there. So what I want to do is I want to do an actual percentage up here. I want to reduce this by, let's see what it looks like, 50%. That's actually pretty good. 50% is close to what we need to. It's locked, so the height and the width are both being kept the same. So let's change that to 25%. It's a bit too small. So we could start playing around with the numbers, or we could just go right in there and then just start. I think we're going to go, yeah, we're going to go about there, which ends up being 33.37%. So yeah, we're going to hit OK. Now if you do the shortcut with free transform, which is Control T, if you just hit Control T, we now get more of a free mode where make sure it's locked. You can still scale, you can skew, you can move it around, and you can also, if you notice, see how the icons have gone outside? You can also rotate. So now we're going to have a book, right? And for now, the book is going to be nice and 90 degrees. Oh my gosh, not 0.03. No, I want it to be perfect. I want 90 degrees. All right, so it's going to be negative 90 degrees apparently. Oh, hey, what happened there? You cheated on me. Negative 90. There we go. Hit OK. So it's going to be negative 90 degrees, and we're just going to say OK. But later, nothing is perfect. You have to have it tilted or askew and all that kind of thing. So this is going to be part of our book. So right now, we're going to call this, we're going to call it the cover because we're working backwards here. Book cover. Book cover. So we've got a book cover set up. And now, look at this. Oh, that's right. I've got some old paper, the type of old paper you'd probably find in a book. Now I got vintage paper. It's a smaller one. So again, I'm going for the bigger file format. And I just drag you up here. By the way, you can start closing some of these tabs that are up here that we've used. It's now created a layer. You'll also notice there's an asterisk. The asterisk tells you have not saved yet. So let's just do a quick, oh, I can't do a save at this point because this is the new one. Oop, gotta be in the right window and do a quick save. which is Control S. That one I do know off the top of my head. And this is just, you know, maximize the count. Yes, don't show me that again. Basically, it lets you know that Photoshop can save really cool stuff. Alright, so now going back to the paper, we're going to do the same thing. We are going to grab this paper, just click, drag, bring it over. We are going to edit it. We're going to go to free transform, now that you have a better idea for it. Make sure these are locked. Let's change them down to see how 25 looks, too small. So we're just going to manually start doing this. We're going to rotate you. We're going to set you up at -90 because we know that's the magic word. And then we're going to move her over, and the paper, we want the paper. Oh, look at this. It looks like it was almost meant to be. It may have been. I've done this before. Oh, wait. Sorry. I have. So now we've got the paper around about the size we're probably going to want. Maybe a little bit more. Let's just transform that baby a little bit more. Let's just, if you grab a corner in free transform, it maintains. If you grab the up and down, it will break the rules that we have set for it being locked down. So here we go. Oh, come on. You can use, by the way, I'm using the arrow keys. You can do fine movement with arrow keys, which I do a lot. So that would be the binding, that would be the exposure of the page. I think we're good. So here we go. We've now got a paper element. We've got the book. All right. As you can tell, this is like a vintage work we're working here on. All right. Alignment issues we'll work on a little bit later. Yeah, right now it's just a little chaotic good, but by the time it's done, we'll have a neutral good standing at least. I'm sorry, that was just really bad. So we're going to call this paper. Pages. Because it is paper. Pages. There we go. So it's pages. Again, if I said, hey, I want to remember the book as one project, we can go like this. We can then click on 2 of them. Then go down here and click on a folder icon. Boop. And then we've now got a group called book. So now all the stuff about the book is in a folder, and we can even color code that. Right click on it. You choose your color. I'm going to say the book's going to be green. So now everything inside this file will be marked green. If you move it around, you want to work on the project. So what we're going to need though is we're going to start creating the look of the book, and we're going to do that by making some copies of the pages. And I've just left clicked, dragged it, and I'm bringing it down to the second icon, the copy. If you want to make a blank new layer, you press this button on its own, and it just creates a layer. Control Z to undo that. If you accidentally drop it to the trash here, that's the garbage. It's bad. This is to make a folder. This is going to be for an adjustment layer. If we do that, we'll talk about that later. This is a mask layer. I think we're going to be touching on masks today. I think we're going to cover some masks. If not, in the next episode where we talk about making an interface for Twitch, we'll definitely be using masks. And then our FX, our special effects layer, which we will be using. That you can just double click on a layer to activate it. So I'm making a few pages copy, and I'm going to be lazy and just let them be pages copy, copy 2. And let's do one more. Copy 4. So we're going to scroll in a little bit to see more of our book as we're working on it. Yes, guys, it's almost an hour, so this is probably going to be longer than a 1-hour stream like I did with the last horrible stream. So I'm going to zoom in now. And if you hold down the Alt button, you first off get the icon for the Alt command. But if you use your mouse wheel, you can now scroll in. Up here is my navigator. You can actually manually do stuff like this. But we're bringing ourselves in to 100%. Well, we're just bringing ourselves in to be up close. If you hold down the space bar, you get a hand icon. And if you left click, you can move around your canvas. So again, space bar, and then left click. You can move. Alt button and mouse scroll wheel allows you to zoom in and out of your project. So we've got several copies of a page here. All right. So what we're going to do is start to create the illusion of a book. And the way that's going to be done for this particular part is we are going to use our little arrow keys and make sure the movement tool is selected. And then if you have the layer selected, you can go right ahead. 4, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3, 4. Wait, I did it wrong. I was supposed to go like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, and then this will be 6. 6. So they're a little bit askew. Now, of course, we're getting that. It's very hard to tell what's going on because you don't see anything. So we're going to slowly start applying some visual effects. One thing is, this is the top page, so we'll have this the clearest. So we double clicked. What I did is I double clicked on it, and we've now got to the layer style. Layer style is a bunch of visual effects that will apply to that layer, and its manipulation can allow a lot more visual effects than you might think of. For instance, you can actually make a layer invisible, so as you draw, only the effects are being drawn. And sometimes if you're doing water effects or something like that, that's one of the little tricks you can do to paint in different elements, but not the actual image itself. We'll get into that a little later on. So what we're going to do here is, first off, we're taking a look at a stroke. The stroke is like way too thick. It's too obvious. So I'm going to reduce that to like a 1 pixel stroke, right? And that 1 pixel stroke, it's centered. If I had it on the outside, there we go. It's a little less thick. It gives a little bit there. And it's great if it's a comic book style that you see a strong outline like that. But in true fact, I want the opacity of that line to be reduced. That's how strong it is. So we're going to change it from 100% to, let's say, 75%. Let's drop that down to 50%. Again, this starts playing by eye. There we go, 50%. So it's not as evasive, but it's there. There's a line, because our eye needs that defining line to say that's the end of it all. Another way is to actually copy the abundant color of the page and then slightly darken it. So it's effectively the same color as the page, but slightly darker to create effect. Here, we're just, because it's a mess, the page is dirty and it's a mess. So that's what we're going to do. And then we go, okay, I kind of like that for now. All right. So we've created, as you can see on here, we have a layer style that we've created. The more stuff you add to it, the more intense the layer styles can be. But now, instead of clicking on each separate layer to do the same thing, if you want the same style, something really easy, you just hold down. This is important though. This came out in the more recent versions of Creative Studio Photoshop. Earlier versions of Photoshop, it was just drag and drop. But because there's different things you can do in layers now, you hold down the Alt button first, then you drag the FX layer onto your next layer, and it makes a copy. If you didn't, you would just literally take that effects layer off of one layer and put it onto another layer. So holding down the Alt button, that allows you to make a copy of what element you're taking. This also goes for masks and other things that we will create later on. If you like it in one layer and you want to bring it to your other layers, drag, drop, hold down the Alt button. All right. And we're going to do it one more time, for a couple more times for the other pages. We're just going to drag those lines down. Drag those lines down. And as you can see, you're starting to see what looks like pages. Isn't that kind of cool? I think the very last page here, this guy here, needs to go in a little bit more. And there we go. So we've now created this nice little illusion of pages. Just simple like that. So one thing you can do is if you're happy with this, you can combine these guys. Now, some people would say merge them together, right? And you could do that. But if you needed to make any tweaks or changes, you've merged it. So let's nestle another file. Well, what does that mean? We are creating a folder within a folder. We're having folder. Oh, I created a new layer. My bad. Undo. I pressed the wrong button. A folder within a folder. So inside the book, we're going to have a group called Pages. So now within the group, we have another group called Pages. Right? And if we wanted to, we could then take the folder Pages and make a copy of it. Boom. And now we have another set of pages. And with the entire thing selected, if we use the move button, oop, wrong direction, because you can see we start moving, and now look at this. We have got ourselves several pages in a book, just done like that. So now you've got the look of several pages for your book. So this is kind of cool, but the thing is, the book cover isn't really the book cover, it's on the back. So we've got our little pages, we've got our illusion of pages going on for this book. But now what we're going to do is we're going to get the book cover, and we're going to make a copy of that. We're just dragging it down to the little icon, making a copy. We're going to call this, though, we're going to call it back. Book back. Book back. Here it is, book back. And now, book cover, we're going to go drag up and above here. And as I've stated, layers are like a Big Mac. Looking down on a Big Mac, you see the top bun. Then you pull that bun away, you see the lettuce. You see onions. You might see onions on the inside of the, because they usually put it on the inside of the bun. But anyways, the point being is you got all these different layers, and then the ones on top are above, the ones on the bottom are hidden. It's a Big Mac theory. I like it. I like it a lot, and I like Big Macs. Bubba wants to say that we could make a Big Mac shop. Anyways, alright, so as you can see, we've now covered it up. But what we're going to do now is we're going to have the book cover. We're going to move it to expose a little bit of those pages. We got a nice thing going, so let's get as if we're looking at the book slightly askew. And then the other page thing here, the book back, we are going to bring out a little bit, and then this is where alignment will come into play, which we'll just illustrate in a second. Alright, what we're going to do now is we're going to select, I held down the shift button to select this entire group. Fun fact, some of this is knowledge for a regular interface on the computer, Google interface, GUI interface. Effectively, if you hold down the control button, you can select individual layers. If you want to select from a top to a bottom or bottom to a top, shift will do that for you. So we've got these selected. So what I want to do is I've got all of these selected, and my movement tool up here, this tells you how auto select layer. I'm going to turn this off, by the way, guys. It's useful, but at the same, like, if I wanted to, I could right click and the mouse will tell me what is directly underneath my mouse, and I can choose it, and I can maneuver that piece and that piece alone, or if they're linked, they'll move the group. So this is good. If you have auto select, it's okay if you've got separate images spread out over the thing, so all you have to do is click on the image and it moves that layer. But in this case, if I click on the image, it's going to grab the book cover and not anything underneath it. So if I had to tweak stuff underneath it, so that's why I usually have it set off. If you've got multiple layers stacked on top of each other, switching that off temporarily makes it easier to right click, choose your page you want to work with. And that's what I've done in this case. So we've got our area selected, but over here are alignment tools. And what we want to do is we don't want them to align vertically because of the fact that the what was it? The horizontal centers, right? We don't want to align the horizontals because that will just squish it back together, right? We want the vertical line to be the same. So even though it kind of throws counter to, but you basically want this because the top and the bottom of the pages in the book aren't the best. So we're going to go click, and now the pages have shifted, so they are the equivalent of the center of the book. But there's still something missing. This book still doesn't look fully complete. So what we kind of have to look at doing here is, well, let's look at the book cover. You know, I think the book cover is missing something. The same effect we added to the pages. If I alt-click, drag that effect up, and put it onto the book cover, and then we also do the same thing with the bottom one. We'll just grab Alt here and take this effect, put it onto the bottom. We're starting to get that semblance, but there's still something a little off. And, well, that's when we get to the next thing, lighting. If you're looking down at a book, right, you've got some lighting effects that are coming down. You've got a little bit of a shadow. The smudges on the corner of the pages are somewhat okay because of the fact fingers do tend to smudge down the side of a page of an old book. If you wanted to change that up a little bit, though, you could alter some of the pages. Like, for instance, since they are separate entities, let's say page copy number 2. I want to edit, go to free transform, and then we're just going to, you know, slightly skew that page just a little bit, just so it's, you know, 0.14, and we go okay. And then if we just grab, say, page from here and grab this page and Control T for transform, and bring that page up a bit, so you start to, you see, if it looks too uniform and perfect, the brain goes, oh no. But if it's flawed, the brain goes, it must be real, because it's not, it's flawed. So you just start flipping some of the pages. You could go crazy and just grab our dish page. Man, we're gonna have some crazy trees here. Look at these trees. We're just had a Bob Ross moment there. I'm just gonna go crazy with these crazy pages. Here we go. So we're just going to go grab, we're going to do Control T again, get that one. But we are going to go, we're going to rotate it so the color's off. Somebody's done something with one of the pages. And we'll put her in like that. And maybe a little bit more like that. And then we hit OK. So now you've got a page that's out of whack. We'll do that again with another page. Let's do a page over here. And we want to break up the repetitiveness. When you're using the cloning tool, which I'll be talking about later, that's the tool that helps cover up or remove things from photographs. You don't want to have repetition happen. The brain will pick up on that. If there's a certain crest in the water and you're taking a boat out of the image and you copy the same crest of water more than once, the brain's going to pick up on patterns. So when you're doing multiple pages or stuff like that, you want to break up the patterns so your brain isn't going, look at that pattern, it's a copy and paste, in a way of speaking. So here we go. We're going to do another free transform. Again, it's Control T, or like I just did there, is just go, and we'll just rotate you. Oh, that's a bit too much. There we go. There we go, and we go OK. So now we've got some pages that are a little out of whack. It's breaking up the repetitiveness, so they look like a book that's been bashed about a bit. And even still, the back page, the book back, we're actually going to rotate you, rotate, and we're going to have you rotate all the way, so the leather patching is not the same. There we go, and we go OK. So even the leather of the book is slightly different. So the next thing we want to do is try to apply some lighting effects to create depth, and that would be in the form of a drop shadow. The most overused thing in Photoshop, but if used right, it's not noticed. Well, kinda. So let's close these books up, these pages up. We're going to go to the cover. We're going to double click on effects, and it will bring up that window again. And here we have something called several types of shadow. Where's my drop shadow? Now, if you click on it, it will do the default. If you just click on it here, you can actually go and modify it. First thing to know, Photoshop has something called global light. What global light means is every shadow, every bevel emboss, every type of thing that uses shadow to create depth, it will have a continuous light source. And I think, as you can see here down below, they've created a shadow below the book cover that's as if the light was coming from a 90-degree angle. I highly encourage you to make it unique and your own, but keep it constant. The reason I say that is, yes, you can control the shadow, but as I'll illustrate later, I have a few items that have a shadow on them already. So when I place them, I have to be aware of where the light source is to make sure the items are rotated so their shadow corresponds to my created light source. And if it's hard to rotate those, then rotate your light source to match them. And that can be done at any point as long as you're using the global light setting. You can turn it off, and reasons you may turn it off. Say you're doing an art piece where the light source is in the dead middle, so everything away from the middle has a shadow going away from it. Then you wouldn't want a global light source in that case. You would then have a separate shadow for each one of the elements. Remember, you can copy and paste some of those effects if you get a nice one for one or the other and just rotate. But so that's an example where you might not want to have a global light, if the global light source. Everything else is about it. So let's turn the light source and let's turn it coming down from this angle. No, we want it to land on the pages, so we want it to go this way. So we've moved it so it's at a bit of an angle and it's hitting the pages. Right? So that's kind of what we were looking for the book angle. So you've also got a preview here. The distance, though, is quite a distance from the object. It's over 34 pixels away from the object. When you start working in Photoshop, pixels are your big measurement. You can change that to inches or whatever you want if you're doing, but I'd only suggest that if you're doing an object that's going to be printed out later. So right now we have this shadow that's being cast, but it's pretty far away. So if I reduce the distance on that, brought that up a little bit, because we want some of the pages to show light. And I think I'm going to change the light angle a little bit more. And we're also going to change the spread. We're going to tighten the spread and size. There you go. Size and then spread. So we're going to have it crisp first so we can see where it's showing up on our book. So there we go. It's going to get a bit fuzzy. There we go. The size. And then the distance. There we go. We can start seeing now where the light source is working. So now you can see where the book is predicting. Spacebar allows me to move my image around. So you can see that there's a bit of a shadow being dropped. And we made it harsh so you can see where it's going. But we're going to stop it right there. We're going to increase the size now, which makes it, when it goes beyond a certain point, it starts to get fuzzy. So now it's a subtle shadow. And that's it. That's pretty good for me. We'll just hit OK. And now we've got this little subtle page. We've got like a little subtle work on the page. And the next thing we're going to do is we're going to go here and create another shadow. We don't want to copy the one we've created because we want a bit more difference in this. We'll see that. But if we go to drop shadow, the universal light is still there, which is good. But also, it looks like it's levitating because its default height is 34 and you got a levitating book. And this is the biggest problem. We want to keep the size and the distance kinda, but what we want to do is bring the distance in really close. So not 0, but a pixel or so, a couple of pixels. And then we're also going to reduce the size to give a sharper edge because it's closer to the ground, right? Spread it is limited by size. So you could have a super high spread, but as soon as it reaches the size, you're not going to see that much of a difference. So we just got a little bit here, and then the distance, we're going to manually change that down to a 2. And the other thing we're going to do is we're going to increase the opacity because it's closer to the ground. So it's a darker shadow. So we're going to increase the opacity and reduce the spread a little bit more. So it's just a subtle darkness underneath where the book sits. That's that cover, whereas this is higher up and it's got a farther shadow being cast down. So we go, okay. So now we've got two shadows, and this book is starting to look a little bit like a book now, isn't it? You got some pages that are a bit off. You've got the texture here. So we do have the makings of what looks like an old book. Now, the next thing we want to do is, this is going to be like an Elder Scrolls one. So let's go back here, and I've got some nice images from Elder Scrolls. The obvious for Elder Scrolls Online, would be having their little Oberus. Oh, His Highness wants back in, ladies and gentlemen. The cat from my house. All right, guy, coming in. Come on in. This is the high-tech light baffle I have for my place. It's Boba Fett. And there we go. My light baffle. The white balance is a little off, which creates the very flushed look of my camera, but 'tis life. So we have the Oberus, but I mean, a nod to the darker days. Here's, a nice little Oblivion sigil. So let's take a look at that. Let's just play around with that first. We're going to play around with the sigil. Throw that in. So we go up here. Bang. Now you'll notice this is a JPEG. This is an image that has a white background to it. It is a high res in a sense, right? It's a large image to work with. And it's a simple case that we're just going to go over to here, which this marquee tool, sorry, where is my fill? There's my magic wand. Where's my magic wand? Here we go. Select object tool, quick selection tool, and magic wand. This is best for a magic wand. The quick select tool allows you to select several things as your brush paints over it, and it'll grab all of those elements. The magic wand will go out and at a set tolerance level, look for extremes to a point, like, you can set the tolerance level for it. That's it. And the object select tool is, it will try to figure out what looks like an object and see if that, it'll go like this, and it's thinking, and look at that. The object select tool found a contrast and found the edge. That's somewhat new. It's only been in the last couple of versions. I like it, but as you can see, or maybe you don't see it at first, some parts have gotten missed. They've taken out this part. They don't think it's part of the same object. They didn't grab the thing in the middle. So it's not, and there's a bit here. Now you can fix it up manually. You can use the lasso tool and draw in missing areas. And to draw in, the lasso tool, if you press Alt, you will remove stuff. So if something was drawn in and you didn't want it, you could change that. Or you could shift and add to. So if we want to add this space in, we'll just draw around it and then let go, and then boom, it's now part. As long as you've got that plus symbol, and that's holding the shift button to add to the layer, the selection, and the alt button to subtract from this thing. So shift adds, alt subtracts when using the selection tool. Lasso tool right here. But what I am going to do is go back in time, Control Z. I'm just saying that for those Americans out there too. He said Z. But what I want to try and do is go back to the good old lasso, because there's such an extreme of a white background with a dark object. If I just click here, default is a tolerance of 32. It selects everything in the background. but I don't want the background. I want the thing in the foreground. So one quick thing you can do is you can go to Layer, Select, and Inverse. Inverse flips it. So now I've got both items selected. And then I use the Move tool, and then it will cut that element out. The reason we're getting that ugly yellow background is currently I have red and yellow. Let me just let go of that and undo. But currently this is a regular background that's locked. So when I remove something, it's not going to give a transparent layer like it would do with the other projects. And my background currently is a yellow because I was doing something that had a mix. I'm just going to reset. This is a reset to the default black and white. But basically it's creating what the background would be, a white. It was a yellow in that case. But here I'm just cutting, dragging it, going to our splash screen and bringing it over. And now we've got it here. We're going to tweak it. We're going to fix it up a little bit. And just to let you know, it's still the same because as soon as it leaves the one area, it doesn't affect here. But if I were to actually drag and drop it with this background, I've now literally placed it in a different spot inside the image. And when I finish with this, it will flatten to one layer. But I don't want to do that. I just want to leave that. And no, I do not want. Do you want to save it? No, I do not want to save it. So back here, we now have a new layer, which we're going to call Oblivion. And we're just going to take the layer outside. Because we were working inside the book, it put us inside the books folder. But we put it up and above the book. We pick it up and we put it up and above the book. Thank you. It's now above the book. Let's close the book for now. And it's on its own layer. We still have a little bit of elements around the edge of this symbol that are white, which comes from the Alt and mouse wheel. We're scrolling in, which comes from the way the cut was done. One thing you can do is if you control click the thumbnail, click the thumbnail, it will select everything selectable in that layer. So we have just selected the layer. There's a couple of ways we can do this. I'll Alt to scroll out again. We can go under selection, and what we can do is we can modify the selection and effectively expand or contract the pixels in by so many pixels. So we've got a rough edge of maybe 1 or 2 pixels that still has a bit of white edge sturt from the other image. So we could contract those pixels, maybe make them 2 pixels contraction and go OK. And it still hasn't changed that much, but this is important to do. If I hit the delete button now, you'll be very upset. You'll delete your image. So again, we go to selection and we invert the selection. So now when I hit delete, it will take off the edges and not take out the image. And if we undo, if we Control D to deselect, and if we scroll back in, you'll notice we've gotten rid of that little bit of white that was around the edge of our project. Now this was outlined in red as well, but we're going to work with that. So that is the white removed. And now we've got our nice little image that we can put on our book. So now we can do Control T to transform our guy, bring that in a bit, and we can also place it. We're going to kind of put it in here, and we're going to put that on the book there. We're going to just go bang. All right, it's kind of gone there. Now another thing we can do is we can select the book, select the Oblivion symbol, and then do the same thing again so it's all aligned up. And it looks like my eye judgment was pretty good as the two are lined up. Cool. So now we've got the symbol on the book. Now remember how I said light source? Our universal light source? Can you see where the light source is coming in for our runic image? The irony is it's coming from Photoshop default above. So I'm not going to judge who designed this image, but it looks like if it was created three-dimensionally in Photoshop, he used the default from above vertical. But we can play with this. We can work with this. We can argue, though, that the light source is stronger on this side, not the side that we created our shadow. Two things you can do at this point. Change everything, because, oh god dang it, the light's more this direction, which will affect everything on our book. The pages and all that. So, yeah, let's do it. Let's see how tough that decision was? We just have to go to one of our images that has a drop shadow. And then we have to adjust our global light. So effectively, you're telling me the light's coming in this angle. So we're going to bring the light to that angle. It lightens up the pages a bit, but we're going to have to deal with that. The shadow's still being created around the book, but it's also more in sync with what we see on the page. But now all the shadows have adjusted to suit our new image. Which brings us to our next thing, the new image. There's quite a few things we can do for our image. First off, we could apply a drop shadow as well to have it, again, we want the distance to be really close. And the size, well, let me just increase the distance a bit here. We got a little bit of that shadow going on, but it's not tight. Bring that in. That will tighten it. There we go. That tightens it up a little bit better. So we've got a little bit of a shadow, but the distance is still too great. I don't want a floating sigil. I want a sigil that's nicely placed, putting a little bit of a shadow on the environment it's in. So I've just got a few pixels off. So there we go. We go, okay. But it doesn't look like it's sitting on the book still, right? It's just, well, it looks like it's sitting on the book. But let's change that around a bit. Let's check another effect out. This effect is bevel and emboss. Now, bevel and emboss, effectively, for leather working in metal or that, you can bevel and emboss is kind of how items are placed or done in the work. Inner bevel is basically the item itself is being beveled. The outer bevel affects the surface that's below it. And also you've got a few others like embossing, which is it being inset into it a little bit better. Pillow emboss, where this is the one I'm looking at using. It's creating a groove around so it looks like it's stuck into an object. So that's the one I like to be using. The pillow. Global light is being used, but the distance has to be changed. And also another thing we're going to do is change. So we're going to be using pillow emboss, and then stroke emboss is basically around the edge, which is not as effective on this. So pillow emboss is what we're looking at. But first off, if I flip the up and down, there we go. No, it is good with the up. Yeah. The things we're working on, so it looks like it's more set into the book. The soften, the technique of smooth, then chiseled, and chiseled hard and soft is basically how it's stuck in. If you want it cut into stone, you might have more of a chiseled, but right now we're just going to do soft, smooth, because it's leather. The depth, we're at 100% for depth. If we increase it, it makes the groove appear deeper or shallow. What we want is, let's see what 75 is like. 75 is okay, but I think 100 as they recommend will be good for this one. And also the next is here. This white, it's throwing it off. It's like too bright. We're going to reduce its opacity so it's more of a subtle. We're dropping it down to 25%, so it's not as harsh. Yet the shadow we might bring up a little bit more. We want more darkness in our life, so we bring in more of the darkness. Alrighty, and now you've got a slight bit, like it looks like it's stuck into your little book. And we hit OK. That book cover still looks too pristine, right? That's my opinion. The book cover right now still looks a little pristine. We're going to work on edges and binding. So yes, this is probably going to be a proper length stream. I'm very proud that I can say that. What we have is that book cover does look a little pristine. So going back into the folder, we're going to go to our patterns, and I just happen to have something called grunge. Grunge is kind of a dirt texture that I've got. So I'm going to bring in some grunge. Just drag and drop her up. And now first off, I'm going to just move our grunge over to here. And Alt button, scroll out. You can see that it's a wee bit bigger than our image. Yes, that's all good. Remember, it's good to shrink a large image down, then take a small image and force it up. So we're going to grab that grunge layer. And let us go. Oh, yes. I'll just Control T. Be easier. It's kind of huge. So we're going to just bring that down. We're going to rotate it. -90, our friend. Alrighty. And we're going to drag that up and over top of the book. I'm going to show you a couple of really cool techniques to save a bit of time and make use of Photoshop. So first off, I've got this piece of paper. I could sit here and spend a lot of time trying to make sure it fits perfectly over top my square, shrink it down, or I go like this and I go, sure, that's the right size. And let's call this grunge. Alrighty. I think I'm going to move my camera. Give me a second, guys. I'm just going to change my camera now because we are getting a lot more layers going on. Alright, there we go. Alright, and then I can actually drag this over a little bit more. There we go. So we got more of that going on. I could probably put my image back down now, couldn't I? Whoa, that's too much. Alright. There we go. So, and I'm going to, what you're going to have here is under your grunge. Now, it's a small screen to say what you're seeing here. But where it says grunge, that's my layer. I'm just going to make sure, first off, make sure I'm clicked. So I'm in Photoshop. I'm in that window. But make sure the image is above the image you want it to be, quote, wrapped around. Picture this like a Christmas present. That layer, I want it to wrap around the layer below me. So it will only show inside that layer. And in that case, it's the book cover. So when my mouse is over grunge, I press down the Alt button. And as I move the mouse down, see that icon that popped up there? That little square with an arrow pointing down. I'll do it again. I'm going to move my mouse for people to catch it. There's where my mouse is. It's on the grunge layer. I hold down the Alt button and I move it down and you get that icon. that icon, if I click on it, it wraps that top. It wraps. See how you got a little layer? You got a little arrow pointing to the layer below it. It now means that that image is bound to the dimensions of the image below it. I can still move it. I can still move it around, and as you can see, it is still bound to those areas, but it saved me a lot of work. So some people would just crop it and chop it off, but what happens if, look at this dirt stain, but if I move it over here, that's a better dirt stain, or if I moved over here, it's a different, you know what I mean? Like, I shrunk it down a little too much for my liking, but effectively, I could move the image around more until the dirt stain is lined up with what I want, right? I can move it up and down a bit more, but I can get it down a bit so the grunge is in that lower corner, because everyone manhandles the corner. So now it's placed on top. But you're like, that's just white over top of all that leather. This is where we get to blending modes. Blending modes can be accessed one of two ways. If we double click on the effects window, the first page you get is blending modes. This is also where you can set the opacity of the layer to 0, where you would just show the drop shadows or whatever effects we applied to it. But the other way to do it a lot easier without even to pop into a window is make sure you've got the layer selected, and right up here, it's all grayed out because this window is open. I'll close it. You can just select the layers from here if you don't want to go into that previous window that was mentioned. So effectively, what the layers are, as we're going to go through it. Dissolve is really horrible. It's like the 80s pixelation, and you only get the, like, if I click on dissolve right now, you don't see anything. But as I reduce the opacity, watch what happens. See, it's like Commodore 64 transition fades. It literally fades out the image to nothing, and then it slowly, by pixel, redraws it. Okay, it's a horrible dissolve. I don't know why Photoshop still keeps it, unless you want to create a retro kind of feel. Then we get to the first group, which basically, it hides the white information and it keeps the dark information, and it applies it to the image in several different ways. The reason I say burning is back in the dark room, to create darker effects, you would literally burn it into the film. The light exposure would be longer. So these are old darkroom terms. And then lighten is the exact opposite. It keeps the light information and discards the dark information, as if you were lightening up, and it has several ways that you can apply that. Overlay is it takes the color information and applies it. I will be doing a show showing you how you can change eye color, hair color, skin tone, and everything, and you can all be doing that with color overlays or saturation manipulation, which we will talk more of later. And then there's also other ones like difference, exclusion, subtract, divide. Basically, it takes the data, and it's better for a color palette, not a black and white one, and it will do like the flip side or the opposite of. And then down here, hue, saturation, color, and luminosity are also just taking certain elements and applying them to it. Sometimes you can just literally do what I do, scroll through all of these, see what looks good, but what we're probably looking at is something in the burn category. We want to add that grunge to this image. Multiply is usually your nice one to work with. Darken still has some of the light effects in there, but the multiply basically takes the existing dark, finds the dark below it on the other layer, and just multiplies it to make it look even darker. Color burn, it's a little extreme, but it does have a nice effect. Ironically, it does have more of a burn effect to our book. Linear burn, it's got a crisper edge. See how you got a bit more reds here? This is more dark. And then darken color, there's no real colors being darkened. Light, of course, is not what we need. Overlay makes it look like it's a tome from Skyrim. I don't know. That's actually, okay, side note, the pin light kind of looks cool. Has a reverse effect here, but it almost makes it look like it's a cowhide. You know what I mean? Like kind of a cowhide. Hard mix, yeah, that's, no. And then there was another one I saw down here. The color one was not bad. But what we're going to look at doing, I think we might actually do a burn on this one. Do a linear burn. So now the book has a little bit of a grunge to it. It's not as nice. And the nice thing is, we can drag and make a copy of this. Now, when you do an overlay of any type, or you're doing some of these ones, if you have multiples, you will just take, like say this darkened it by 10%, and then you make another layer, then the total is 20%. You can actually create darker effects by intensifying the effect over and over again. You shouldn't need to, because you can adjust other tweaks and saturation, luminosity, and all that in other sections of this program, but you could in one way. I actually kind of like the darkness of that. It's almost a little too dark though, but the reason I created this guy is I wanted to put it onto the back of the book here. As you see, it's not locked down, so we are also going to do the same thing. Hold down the Alt button and look for that icon, and then now it's attached to the back of the book. So now we've got a grungy, dark book that suits this feel that we're going for. And hey, you know what's important, guys? Let us hit the save button. Boop. Control S for the quick key and minded. Alrighty. Bang. There we go. Alright. So now we have a very reasonable looking book. But we still have to do stuff like a binding. This is kind of, I'm going to play around with the Oblivion symbol, because it's let's see if, you know, one quick thing is, let's see if any of the layer effects could make this if anything, the overlays may give you something, because you keep both hue, saturation, luminosity. Luminosity is actually cool. It just gives you the black and white information. But I think I hate to say this, we lose the entire rock and we're just taking the color information. And we could have just an embossed cover without the rock formation on it. That, I didn't expect that one. That's not bad. You know, I was going to be looking at something like this, the darken overlay. I think we're going to go with that. Sorry. I actually like that. That was not on my list of things. And that's another reason why you scroll through, because suddenly you might discover something. If people in chat, what do you think? We got two things going on here. We have this one, the gray version of Oblivion. And you know what? Let's just let's make a copy of it. All right? And on the copy, we're going to make the copy is going to be the darken, and then combined we get rid of that glare. There was too much of that glare. By doing this, we've removed the glare, but we've still got some of the texture, and that again was combining layer effects. A first layer effect we've got underneath it is basically the simple color information from the original image. So it ignores the white and the black from the original image and just give us the color information that we needed. I'm looking down here, but your camera's up there. Just, you know, kind of camera. Look at that beard. The beard. The beard. All right. Still know if that's going to do anything. No, it's just chop the top of my head off. There we go. All right. So effectively, we kept the color information in the one layer. And then we went back to the bevel. Couldn't see with all that glare. Ah, thank you. Thank you, Rezzy. Shut up. I'm sorry I can't adjust my gamma in the real world like some people. There we go. I think I have to move Boba Fett to get rid of some of that glare. That's a little bit better. So effectively, if we turn that off, it doesn't look that good on its own. It's missing the color information. But now we've gotten rid, and if we make this just the regular so you see what it was, there was that white glare that was making this stick out a lot. Rezzy. So now what we're doing is we are going to make that the darken or the multiply. Multiply is a bit too dark. I think the darken, because we remember I told you multiply is just really the dark information, whereas darken still has a little bit of the in-betweens. Yeah, we're going to keep that. So now we've got that kind of on the book. And next we're going to do binding. So again, we've shown you a bit of the layer effects. The ability to clip an image to the underground element. Again, that's Alt and drag it between. Alt is your favorite button apparently. Alt will help you copy and paste effects. So let's look at making a binding on this book. So I'm going to create a brand new layer for this. And what I'm going to do is show you how you can use a layer, but just for its visual effects. What I'm going to do for this binding is I'm going to create a rectangle. And right here. Now, when I create this rectangle, actually I'm going to do it right now. I'm not going to get to the shape tool here because we'll talk about the shape tool more when we get into vector-based images, because that will bring us a lot of elements. But right now we're just going to go here under the selection tool and create a rectangle. Make sure it's on the new layer. We're going to call it binding. So it's going to be a binding. Also, now that we've got these elements that are related to the book together, I think we should actually hold Shift, grab all three of those, drag them into the book, but make sure they're still in the same layer order in the book. If this folder is closed and you drag it in, sometimes they'll put it at the bottom of the layer and you don't got to worry about that. So now we've just got everything we need in the book, and if we have the book selected and we have the move tool, we are moving the entire project and rather than having to worry about it. So let's go back in and go to the binding, and with the tool here, let me spacebar, move the mouse, Alt and scroll wheel, zoom in, spacebar to bring us up. So there we go. What I'm going to do with the rectangle is I want to draw the rectangle. I want to draw a rectangle right about here. Okay, this is where I'm wanting to have a little rectangle, and we're just going to fill that rectangle in with here's a quick thing to change colors. If I want to set the foreground color, you just roll over it, click on it, and you bring up your color wheel. Here you can select whatever color you want, but I'm going to let you know what all the funky little bits and pieces mean. If I click here, I'm like, oh, that's awesome. Why do I have a cube? Or if I click over here, why do I have an exclamation mark? What's these funny things? What do these symbols mean? Effectively, these are safe color zones for web use and printing. The gamut warning is the warning that it might not look the same on print or television. It means I broke it. Thank you, Rezzy. All right. But basically, it means one's not good for printing and one's not good for one's not good for the web. But the ones that are not good for the web, with thousands of colors and all that coming on, that's not as big of an issue. But sometimes it might be a problem with video. You might have heard the term how red bleeds, and I'm not just saying about cutting someone and watching them bleed, but you might have seen it where the red or the blue on video, it causes that weird effect. But basically, if you want to design, you click on this and it will take you to the safe version. And you'll notice sometimes what's web safe and print safe are not necessarily the same thing. You can still use those, but it may not look the way you want. You can turn that option off if you want. The other thing is, back in the day when I was working for print and that, you can use swatches. Oh, sorry, cancel. That's make a new, add a swatch. Let's just try. Let's go color libraries. I've seen that many times. All right. Most of you guys, your only experience of swatches is going to like Costco's and seeing the paint selection, and they have all these different paints that you can choose from, and they have swatches. What a swatch means is it is an exact number. Basically, it's the exact color of a type. The only time that this is really used, especially, is in business. Corporate logos want to make sure they look the same, whoever does their work. So they might have a swatch color to match. If you have like Mishloff green, you can actually make sure you always get that green color you like because you have the swatch saved. Or you know if you go to the picker, you actually can write down the web code thingy, hexadecimal fun number stuffs. This is about Photoshop, not the web. But oh, you can also choose web only colors, which will get rid of that. Look at that, it's horrible. I mean, who uses the web like that? I mean, all right. But the color libraries, you've got Pantone, you got all these different ones. True Match, that's a paint color. All these, like, these are all the different types you have. And fun fact, did you know Coca-Cola has 4 different color swatches? They have one color swatch for North America. They have a different color swatch for the Asian market. They have another color swatch for Thailand. And I do believe there's another one for the Southern Hemisphere. Like, there's a general one for the Southern Hemisphere, just because the light is slightly different, that they paid some researcher to make sure the color of Coke looks the same in the North and the South Hemisphere. Thailand has more gold in its red, and somehow that's more appealing, or in that area. And Asian itself also has a little bit more gold, so there's a hint of gold in their red cans. You wouldn't really notice it unless you were really looking for it, but that's slight changes, and certain companies will do that, and that's what the Pantone is. But for us, after all that complexity, I'm okay actually with just doing it black. I just wanted to show you how to do the colors. The reset is right up here in the upper corner. The reset. Give me a second. There we go. Yeah. The reset is right here. Sorry, the little default background. This little arrow here, you can also access it by pressing X. If you press X, it switches between your foreground and background color. That's pressing the letter X or pressing this little icon. It's really useful when we do masks, which we're going to be getting into probably next stream, because with a mask, white is invisible, black is... Black makes things invisible because it's hiding it, and white is making it visible. So you might want to tweak between the two if you're painting with a mask to only reveal bits and pieces that you want. And that's another thing, painting with a mask. Again, when we get to that. So what we're doing here is we're just going to fill this little area with a paint bucket. We all know the good old paint bucket tool. It's going to fill it with the main color, and I go clicky and I fill that bar up with black. Isn't that freaking amazing? And this is going to be the binding. How are we going to do that? Well, hey, we're going to Control D. That will deselect it. We will go here into bindings. First thing we're going to do is change the fill opacity, not the overall opacity. This is important. We're not going to change the overall opacity because that is the visual effects as well as the layer. But we want the fill opacity, which is the black square itself, we want to reduce that to 0. So visually it's not there. The purpose... Apogee! This is looking nice. I was doing other stuff and had you muted. Thank you. So now that that rectangle is invisible, we can still apply effects to it, and those effects will apply on the book. and you won't see the black line. So, oh my gosh, guys, I went to OBS to click on the icons I need to in Photoshop. I gotta go to this screen to do that. Sorry, my bad. So, what we're gonna do is we're gonna take a look at a bevel and an emboss. Now, right off the bat, you can see that the bevel and emboss, the pillow emboss may not work as well, but if we do like an outer or inner bevel, or an outer, no, I was right with my outer bevel, we can start to create little effects. Yeah, I think a pillow, a stroke emboss. Yeah, that's not, it's not a vector. Pillow emboss. Yeah, we're going to stick with like maybe the pillow emboss, as that could be the start of the binding for us. So we go, okay, we've got a nice little pillow emboss happening. Again, the edges are on the outside of the book. But what we're going to do again is we're going to grab our binding that's in the layers thing, drag it down to the same thing as the grunge, and then we're going to alt click and bring it down to here, and it's going to bind to the grunge, which is bound to the book cover. And as you can see now, the binding edge stays within the shape of the book cover. So now we've created a little bit of a binding edge on our book with an invisible rectangle. Now also we can go back to the binding and start playing with the visual effects on it, and you can actually play around more with that bevel. Like we can actually increase or decrease the depth to create a darker spine. So we've just kind of increased that a bit. Softening will dull it a bit depending how sharp you want. I think I want it dulled yeah, that's way too harsh, so we want to dull it a little bit, which also reminds me I gotta dull the symbol Oblivion. Same thing. Going to go to Oblivion, go to the effects, and under bevel and emboss we haven't softened it, have we? No, we didn't. We want to soften that a little bit so that it's still not as harsh. And there we go. There we go. That's a little bit better. Just right up, soften on it. Alrighty. Simple but effective is always good. Yes, I understand you. You're talented, Mish. Gotta say, that's looking amazing. Thank you very much. This is getting interesting, not using styles for my photos. But yeah, like I said, and spacebar grabs the thing again. So now we've got ourselves a nice Oblivion tomb that we've created from, now I'm not going to say we're created from scratch. I did get some stock photos. I would have painted this, LOL. What was it? I have gotten some stock leather, and I've got wood, I've got stone. You, like I said, Creative Commons has a bunch of it. That's the stuff where you don't have to worry about copyright. If you have your cell phone, grab it. But be considerate of light. If you're going to buy textures, if you're going to take photos of textures that you're going to use for stock footage, I would highly recommend in a diffuse lighting setting. What does that mean? You don't want to take a picture of materials on a very bright setting. So if it's a sunny day with no clouds, because it's going to have sharp shadows and light that you're going to have to compensate for every time you use that texture. But if it's cloudy, or if you can throw a blanket behind you to diffuse the lighting to make it soft, then you can control how the lighting looks on that object later. So that's a tip. Always do a high quality big image, which most cell phone cameras are a high quality when they take the picture anyways. But also consider the lighting. A lot of people forget lighting, and that's what ruins a picture or makes it look so photoshopped, because your brain is picking up weird lighting all around the image. So if you are going to grab your own stock images, diffuse lighting, cloudy days are the best to grab that. Alrighty. So, okay, so that's like, for instance, remember I was talking about be aware of the lighting or change the object. Here, this little nail that we haven't used yet, I use it as a nail to put something in place. It's got light, again, coming from Photoshop default north. I mean, seriously, guys, just change it up a little bit. And then You can rotate this object, though, to affect the lighting of my choice. So that's because it's round. So here we go, guys. This is our book so far. And I want to darken up this spine. So what we're going to do now is, first off, we're just going to get back into Photoshop. So we've got the hints that a spine is here, but that's not good enough for me. So let's go back here to where we got the binding. We're going to make a new layer. This new layer I purposely made above binding because we're going to lock them down to this book cover again. So I can be sloppy and just draw. Let me just draw, bang, a roundabout. Let's do it to here. Let's do it to there. And we're gonna take a color for this one. We're gonna go Oblivion Red. Oh my God! Look, the gamut warning and everything. All right, I don't care. Let's just do it. That's the brightest red ever. Why would we do that? Because because we can. So guess what? First off, we're going to Control D to deselect. We're going to Alt. We're going to go to our layer here, and we're going to hold down the Alt button and get our little bind to bind it again to the top book layer. We are going to go and look at applying this now to our book. And I think what I want here is going to be that color burn again. The linear burn. Not that much difference between them. But we're going to get that multiply in and apply that. And if that red is a little harsh, we can play around with its opacity right here. Also, if you double click on it and play around with the shadow, you can play around with it. If you right click under layer styles, you can play around with it there, but we're just going to cancel. And we can just do it right here, and we're going to reduce that opacity a bit. Say, not going to reduce it too much. So now you've got yourself the book, and you've got a bit of a binding. You know what? I want an embroidered binding on this book. How's that sound, guys? That sounds good. And you know what we can illustrate right now? Open up another Google Chrome, because I don't want to use the other one over here. We are going to grab ourselves. Let's go. Let's just kind of go. Embroidered book spine. Embroidered book spines. Alright. Yes, I meant to say that because I know how to speak words. So we're going to go images. Now, again, I mentioned earlier about Creative Commons and all that stuff. And right now, I might be cheating a little bit. Because embroidered book covers, we can try and put down under tools. Usage rights. There is a spot here. Usage rights. Filtered by license, labeled for reuse, labeled for non-commercial reuse with modification, and labeled for non-commercial reuse. So we're just going to see if we get anything under that, and there we go. These are following images that are labeled for non-commercial reuse with modification. Modification is important because we're not going to keep the image, we're going to take the image and use it. So these are books that they have got labeled that way, and this is one of the things. And right here, how big is this image? We want big. I like this. I think I can work with this. I think I can. So what I'm going to do is right click on this, open the image in another tab, and I'm just going to drag that. Whoops, no, I'm not going to drag the whole page. I'm going to drag that image to my folder here. I'm going to rename that book binding. Book binding. So again, a quick little backwards on what we just did here. I'll close this up. In the browser, we basically put in tools labeled for non-commercial reuse with modification, if you're concerned, and you should be, about copyright issues. This is still not 100% foolproof. It's best to still find stock footage of your own. Pay for stock footage if you want. You get some really good stuff. There's a lot of stock footage places. If you're part of Creative Studio, they've got a built-in stock footage thing. You can get so much free with a subscription. Of course, you can purchase more, but I'll be honest, some of the stock photo footage from Adobe is a lot better than some other places, and the prices are a lot lower. If you're working on making money or for commercial use, I would highly recommend building your own stock footage portfolio to be used for clients. But if you're not working, if you're just a streamer or a gamer, just watch yourself, grab things that are labeled like this, or go to Creative Commons and find some stuff there. Looks like the dog has almost melted. It feels like the temperature's... Oh, gee, thank you, Resi. It is kind of warm here today. Hold on. It is warm, Resi. I think we are... You're going to have to... It's going to be in degrees Canadian and not degrees foreigner. So... It is 5 degrees Celsius where I am right now. That is just above 32 Fahrenheit. It's above freezing here. So it's warm. That's a sun. It's warm. The cat didn't come in with icicles on its whiskers. And we have no snow. We have that shitty snow. You know, the huge piles that are now mixed up with sand and grit, and no kid wants to play in it. That's the type of snow we got around here. So we grabbed that nice little spine. So what are we going to do with it? Well, we're going to drag it in here. We can start closing some of these up, like grab the pieces that we don't. And now, oh, I just cracked my neck. All right, how are we going to use you, my friend? So, even though this is a proper book binding, we're probably going to take something like this off of it. So first off, we're going to move it over to my book. We're going to see, again, it is currently, let's put it, where are we going to put it for height of the image? Now I wonder. But wonder. Yeah, so it's connected to that page. It's still not going to do us that good. So we're going to have to do some trimming. So we're going to undo all that. We're going to undo. We're going to place this guy for now. Trying to think. Going to have to trim her down. We are going to have to trim her down. We are going to have to change its size, because this is going to be more. Control T gets our transformation going. And what we are going to do is we're going to put it here, and then bring it so I can see that. And we're going to bring that up for now. We are going to chop a chunk off. I think I want to try and use this part of the floral pattern, if you see it, guys, on the spine. Or I could try and just create the dark spine on it. The light source is right for it too. The light's coming in from that direction. So if we Control T, we transform and rotate the book, the light is matching up. Just wondering if I were to apply that as... Oh wait, what are we on? Yeah. Oh, I had to finish the project. It had to be adjusted before I could do that. All right. So if that is my darken, lighten. See what's going on here, guys? The lighten. We're taking the light information. We're ignoring the dark information, and we're taking the light information with this blending mode. If you see what's going on. And I don't think anything nice will come of it down here. Luminosity. Nah, it ruins it too much. So we would be looking at a lighten or dodge, which is an add. Let's change it to this. We're going to adjust it a bit more before we clip it to the book cover. We are going to Control T, and we are going to adjust our book here, our fake book cover, to our real book cover. Actually, yeah. What we're going to do now is we're going to break they are no longer locked. So the horizontal currently 8 degrees Celsius, 45 Fahrenheit. 8 degrees. Wow, it's a warmer. We're going to stretch the book and compact the book a little bit. So if we can get the center lined up a little bit with our oblivion symbol. There we go. And now if we do our binding again, guys, to everything below it so it stays in there. We've now got a stencil pattern on our book. We've got the rough edge binding, and we've got a different colored spine, which I was looking for. And that is basically, again, using our blending modes. What bothers me, though, is our oblivion symbol. These two, by the way, they are already in the folder that we've got that's kind of getting big now with the book. But what we can do, if we don't want to create another folder, to have a folder nestled inside of another folder, one thing we can do is click on, if you hit Control click, it just lets you select a couple. Once you have two things selected, you can go into here, right-clicking, and then this option to link the layers. If we link the layers, now that oblivion symbol moves as one. So if I, and again I'm using the arrow keys right now, if I bring the arrow keys down, we can probably line up the oblivion symbol with the nestled book. Ta-da! But here is the problem. We can still see the pattern of the book shining through our oblivion symbol, and that's kind of ruining the effect that is, you know, it's breaking the effect that, hey, no, this is actually on the book. No one would print over top. So this is where masking comes in. What you can do is we can Control click the oblivion symbol. If you make sure your mouse is over top of the icon, if you hold down the control, I'm holding down Alt, that's why it wasn't working. Hold down the control button, and you see how you got the little pixelated square down there? I'm just doing that flickering there. If you see the pixelated square, I click on that, and it, again, remember this, it has created a selection around that tool. Now that it's selected, I click on the item of concern. That is this book cover. On this book cover, I want to apply a mask, meaning it will show up everywhere, but it won't show up over top of the oblivion symbol. So right now, because I've got the oblivion symbol selected, even though I'm not on the layer, it doesn't care. It's what is selected. I click here, and I click mask. And then you're like, oh my god, what the hell? There is other ways to do this, but I just quickly go, all right, it's the reverse. I want the reverse. I don't want the item masked just to the oblivion, even though that kind of looks cool. So what I do is I still make sure this is important. Once you start working with masks, you will have a layer that represents your actual layer, and then you'll have what they call a mask layer. Now, one thing to know when you're in a mask layer, if you take a look over here, see my colors? How I've got red and white. As soon as you go to a mask layer, it's black and white, because that's all it knows is just black and white. So, well, we've got that selected. I can go up here to image. And under adjustments, in future we'll be using this tab a lot, we can go down and go to invert. It will make the white black, the black white, and then by doing that, it puts the mask the way we want it. So the Oblivion symbol is on the book. The pattern that we put on the book is no longer interfering with the Oblivion symbol. The bevel has created that little bit of break to make you realize there is a spinal column, and the colorations, the red on the spine, the pattern we've now created a realistic looking book. And we did a book in 2 hours? 2 hours. We did a book in 2 hours. So that now, and the nice thing is, I think we can leave the book for now. We're going to close this folder up. And now, Alt bring it out, we have the book. The first little part of our little Elder Scrolls splash screen. With movement tool, we can now move the book around. But this is the best part. Now that we've created the book we want, we can now do this. We can do Control T and transform. We can rotate the book. Now it should be noted, global shadows is set from a universal standpoint. So if I rotate this book, the light source will stay the same and the shadows will shift as the book rotates. Again, pay attention to where you've got your light set up on your image, but as I go and I rotate, the shadow will reset itself, but it also at the same time, the idea that nothing is perfectly set. So bang, there's our Oblivion book just sitting there wanting to be read. But now we want to do the same type of thing, but what do we want to do? We kind of want to have the book open, and that's where the chat's going to be. Another book that's opened, and chat will be inside that book. This is the idea we're doing it. Well, we've already got a book that we've designed. Isn't that cool? And effectively, we could drag and drop and make another copy of this book and delete what we don't want. Or we could create a new folder and drag copies of what we do want. So both of them can take up a bit of time, but I'm just going to do this. Make a copy, book copy. We're going to change this book color to red. Is that red? That doesn't look red to me. Is that red? That's red. I think I hit the orange. And inside the book copy, we're going to call it chat book. Chat book. And inside of chat book, we can delete a few things like that. I'm going to shift click and go all the way down to book cover, and I'm going to hit the delete button. Do you want to delete these select layers? Yes, you can click the tab button. So now we've got the book without the front cover part, and that's kind of what we want to work with. And with my mouse, we are going to drag that book over. We're going to have to rotate her again. I should have rotated. I should have kept this part while the book was, still straight. And oh yeah, Control T. Boo, 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 boo. And we're just going to rotate that book until it is quasi, straight. Ish. There we go. Bang. So now it's going to get tougher as we create a spine and pages. I mean, you know what I'm saying. Alright. We still have the one shadow that's on there. And effectively what we can do in this case is just grab the book back. Make a copy of that book back. Book back. Well, oh, that's why, because they had the grunge copy from the other. Let's just trash that. There we go. Because I put grunge on that book back too, and I forgot I had done that. All right, so book back, copy, book back mountain. All righty, so we can make a copy of that, and now that that's selected, we're going to call that front open book. Open cover. So now we're going to do open cover. And now that that's the open cover, we just mouse key. Make sure you got movement selected. It's always good to make sure. I'm going to drink some water. Also, it should be noted, if you want to move it with the mouse, like we're going to do now, if you wanted to maintain basically an extreme of angle, if you hold down the shift button and you go to move, it will only move. If you started moving it vertically, it's only going to move vertically. And it also, there's a lot of aids to like what the distance is between you. Right now, if I wanted to, I've got an equal distance between books here. There's a lot of stuff for layout and design that are built into Photoshop that I'm not fully showing here. So here is, like, we don't want the book to be like this. Because remember, we have to create this invisible spine, the thickness of the book. That has to go there, right? This is where it kind of gets a little tricky, as we've got to get the spine created. And unless your book's binding is being ripped. All right, so what we got here is we're going to, yeah, all right. All right, we're going to lift this up. And the way I'm proposing to do this is effectively we're going to have a little bit of a visual effect going on. I am going to move that back. Shift a little bit closer because I forgot. I'll have to still put something here. But what I'm going to do is, let me just grab a copy of this. Just, whoop, undo. Oh, damn it, undo took me the entire move. There we go. So we're going to go here. We're going to create that. We are going to use this tool. We're going to grab a chunk of leather, copy, and then paste. By the way, copy, Control C, paste, Control V. By doing that, I created a brand new layer, and we're going to call it spine. And if I hit the go back to move, the shift button, you can see the little layer that we have created. I'm also going to place it underneath both layers, so effectively it's that little piece of material that's going to be the spine. The other thing I want to do is, oh, did I put the spine outside of the folder? Yeah, I did. There we go. So the spine is supposed to be in the folder. There we go. That's still in the folder, I think. Let me close the folder and see. Yep, it is. We're also going to make a copy of this layer. Copy. And we're going to take that layer out and put it into the spine. Alright, well, what? Alright. Actually, I'm just going to... I just realized it's at an angle. It's just going to be quicker to... book cover spine. It's going to be quicker just to make a new layer and do what I did last time. Draw... bang. Fill it with red. And then have it Alt click to that, and then have it apply as, I think we had it as a burn. Yeah. And then we reduced it down a bit. A little bit in there. Alrighty. Alrighty. So there we go. Control D. Alrighty. Now we want to make sure we've got the open cover. And what we're going to do with the open cover is we're going to transform, but we're going to go to something called perspective warp. And thank you very much. What perspective warp can do is literally allow us to move or pin elements bit too much, maybe. Undo. Bang! Okay, give me a second. That wasn't the tool I was using. Where is it? Transform perspective. Yeah. The perspective warp. There we go. This is the tool I usually use. The perspective warp, I think, is part of their 3D. They've got a new 3D element. Nope. There we go. As you can see, this is creating... I don't want it extreme because the book's not... Whoops. There we go. Falling that much. But the book cover... There we go. And that shifts a little bit. There we go. So effectively, we're trying to create that little effect of the book page open a bit. The other thing is our drop shadow. Back the drop shadow for our book. There we go. Book open cover. Sorry, the book open cover. Because we're trying to create an artificial sense of depth, this is an example where you would take the drop shadow, and for this particular one, I am not going to use the global light because I'm going to try and cheat it a little bit, as I'm going to create a bigger distance underneath. The spread is going to be a little bit more, but at the same time, I am looking to adjust it so it looks like it's created by the book because of the existing light. There we go. Give me a second. The angle has to be... what I'm trying to angle the light to do for me is to create a narrow bit of shadow at the tip where it's touching the top, and then a bit more shadow close to where it's raised up for the spine. Is what I'm trying to create with this little effect right now. There we go. And our size. There we go. So now it's got that kind of a hint that it is open. Now, the next thing we're going to need as well is, this thing here, spine. Spine's going to need a drop shadow. Now, if I held down the Alt button and grab, actually, if I grab this, I'll grab this guy's, not the open cover, the back book. If I grab the back book effects, drag it onto the spine, it's got the same little bit of shadow and light there now on there. So we've got that, but one other thing I'm going to try and do is see again under Google. Where's my Googles? Okay, where's my other Google? I gotta close that window, didn't I? Yes. Alrighty. Spine book. Spine stitches. Bookbind stitches. And we go for images. Yeah. I'm gonna throw our I will see if there is usage rights. Interesting what comes up, I will say. That was totally not expected. Just gonna say, this is an adult channel, but that I did not expect to see that for a search. These images are getting more horrific. I was just looking for a spine, so I get medical images, at least, and pills. Yeah, I need an adult now. And O.J. Simpson. All right, so let's go label for non-commercial reuse. Think we're still going to get some of the weird stuff? Yeah, we are. So let's just go not filtered by license. It's not what I'm looking for. Like that is, but it's not what. You know what? Cross stitches. Let's forget it's on a book. Cross stitches. Yeah, I meant that. Of course we get this. That's exactly what I'm looking for. Images. Cross stitches. Bang. What's her image? Alright. Open link in a new tab. Cross stitches. Bring that in. Bring that back up here. Alrighty. And no, I don't want to paint. I still have the paint tool up. Haha. Movement tool. And bring it in here. And of course, it's put the layer. Let us take you up and out of the book. There we go. So you're out of the book. Don't need you to be any color yet. So let us. Hey, the light is on this side. Our general light source is coming from the upper right-hand corner. So say start off. LOL. It might be. It might be. But those were medical images. So it's, you know. So Control T. We're going to rotate this so the light is sticking with our general light of the scene. Oh, 90 degrees, please. And hit OK. And then the next thing we're going to do is we are going to Control T again and transform our stitches. We're going to... Oh, I forgot. The constraint is off, which is okay in this case because we're playing around with thread and stitches. Literally. So effectively, you know what we want. We want the black piece and not necessarily the white background. So that's what we're looking at. Either, oh, gotta feel, do that. That we don't really want the grays in there that much, so we want the multiply. Yes, because it also gives the sense of glue attaching to the pages, but we don't want it all over the place. So a multiply is what we're looking at doing. And let's play around. This image is not yet bound to other shapes or locked in yet, so also depending on what layer it shows up will be important as well too. So, oh, my bad. Fun fact, if you still got your layers selected here, and then you use your left and right keys, you actually scroll through your list of options. So you just want to make sure you're crisply, you know, on your layer and not in that area. Multiply. There we go. Alright. Alright. Escape gets you out. Alright. Alrighty. So where is the placement of everything? Book back, book where are the pages. Alrighty. The book back and the open cover. We're going to put the open cover above the pages. It's not going to affect the pages, but when we put this layer in, and it's going to be here, then, oh, my paper pages. Nope, it's going to be here. My bad. There we go. So that means the book back is up here. There we go. Oh, not the book back. I got this all wrong, guys. Look at me just drawing everything. Alright, go back. There. Alright, we're just going to hit undo because I broke it. I broke the internet. I think I dragged and dropped them into pages. So, yeah, layer order. We're just going to go back to nudge. There we go. And then, let's try this again. The book cover. We want to go not inside these folders, but here we go. See, basically what's happening is you get a single line, I'm going to go inside that folder. But if I get that double line, there we go, that double line, then I'm above the folder. And then when I drag this guy in below the book cover, then I'm just getting the binding effect happening on the one side of the book. And again, this layer, we're still going to play with that layer because I still want to control T, tweak it, not twerk it, and just bring this in a little bit more. It makes the stitches more concentrated on our little pages, and this is still too long, so I'm actually going to physically trim that. So I'm going to go okay, and then I'm just going to get my little selection tool, make a big box, and then let's move that in so it's there but just a bit. Now I'm also going to do one other thing though. I am going to modify, and I'm going to feather the edges by 5 pixels. Let's see how that works. What feathering the edges will do is it will delete it, but it will do a gradual delete, not a hard line. So if I hit delete, make sure I got the thing selected, and I hit delete, oh, feather's still up here, 5, hit enter, there we go, 5 pixels. Now I hit delete, and if we control D to deselect and I zoom in there, you notice the edges have feathered a little bit. Alrighty. You know what though? Undo. You know what? I don't think I want a feather. I do not think I want a feather. No. Nudge outline. Because that's kind of the binding tape. So the binding tape would actually have a hard edge to it, wouldn't it? Control D. Yeah. You want more of that hard edge. And I probably also wanted it a little trim it a little bit more. Now I see the effect it's creating. Just trim that a little bit more. There we go, and pull and deselect, and then we've got more of the subtle edged spine of the book. I think we're going to crunch that up a little bit more because that really looks like a book that's kind of suffered a little bit in its time. So that would involve the open cover. Shifting to go that, and then control. No, I think the spine's okay where it is. It's just really those two elements I want to shift or nudge. Let me move that back a bit here to about there. And then, you know what? I'm really thinking, yeah, and then just the book cover. Move that in a little bit more. There we go. There we go. There we go. So we have our second book in the workings. Another thing we might do to it is a sleeve sheet. We were using this one because it was a higher quality, right? Yeah, we didn't use this one. Yeah. I want to basically get some stitch pattern in here as well. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a copy of book back. Going to make a copy of it. And let me undo that as I deleted it. Let me grab the open cover, which I want to do, and let me actually put it here. There we go. So I've made a copy of that book, but on the copy I'm dragging the effects to the trash can. I don't want any effects on it. The reason I made a copy of this book is I've created a trapezoid shape, and I want to use the same shape to create an inside bevel on the inside of the book. So effectively I've created that shape, and now, oh, hold on a second, I just noticed an error on our book here. Give me a second, I just noticed that nice little overlay we got. It has not been alt. Give me a second. The alt, boop. There we go. It had lost its edge around the book, so there we go. So now I've got the binding all set up. The secondary book, I'm going to Control T to transform, but I'm going to relock the horizontal and vertical. So as I adjust the size, it will be equal. It will be the same. And if I hit, let me make sure how it's just too much of a bevel, maybe. Actually, we're going to hit undo. We're going to try it again. I know what I did wrong. Control Alt. Control T. Transform. Make sure that is pushed. Grab the corner. That's a proper scaling. And then we can move this guy up. Alright, what I'm going to do for now is so I can see it. Hit OK. We're going to, where's that copy? Copy of the book cover. We're going to call this inlay. This will be the inlay. We're going to probably do that nice little funky trick we did before. We're going to go into inlay. We are going to reduce its fill opacity so it's not there, but we're going to put a nice little bevel emboss on it. But we're not going to do an inner bevel. We're going to do our nice little pillow emboss again. So we've got that nice area in there, and we're going to soften the crap out of it because I don't like that. It's just not. There we go. And the depth and size, we're just going to work with. The white's too harsh too, and the depth. Get that nice, yeah, nice little deep cut into it. The size, yeah, just, yeah, and that white is just horrible. Screen. Let's do an overlay. Yeah, just do a light bit there. Soft light, or actually, we had lighten screen. Screen's just too bright for this. It makes it look glossy. Color dodge. Color dodge will lighten, but it's lightening the color, not adding white, if that makes sense. And that's kind of what I want there. And then I have to adjust that binding a bit. If I had the book cover and that done together, and I did this guy, there we go. It's now in the middle more. And we're going to keep the book color different. The only problem is, it's a bit too big. I mean, that's epic for a chat window. So the nice thing is, we go to book number 2, right? And let me just hit the Alt button and scroll out of our image. So we're going to take chat book number 2, and we are actually going to think up things to say. There we go. We're going to Alt T, and we're going to make this smaller for chat. This will be like the chat window book. So we might even make our Oblivion book a bit smaller too, so it's got a scale. Alright. So that's where the little chat window is going to go. That's where the chat thing is, and this is our Oblivion book. Yeah. So that's played around. We'll play around with the Oblivion book, but we're not done with our chat book yet. Let us now let the people know that this is the chat book. I mean, one of my favorite things to do about a well-used book, which is annoying as crap. Coffee rings. Boop. And we can apply that into the book. And coffee ring. Coffee ring. Alright. Coffee ring. Now, be careful with your coffee rings. Make your own if you can. You can buy vector-based ones. And notice the term buy. Apparently, coffee rings are a commodity. Just letting you know. There's not that many Creative Commons or stuff. As cheesy as that sounds, apparently coffee rings, when I was looking for them, they're not the easiest. It's cheesy that way. But, and as you can tell, we don't want the whole white. We just want the darken or multiply. We're going to go darken. So the coffee ring is there. We are going to Control T. And we're going to just, boom. There we go. We got a little coffee ring going on. Somebody got pissed off, or we just put a little bit of a spill. I think we're going to do like a spill. Not really a proper coffee ring. We're going to... Somebody spilt shit on the book. Because, you know, stuff like that happens. So maybe we'll just have a spillage on the book. We want to be more subtle. I think it would be better on the other side where it's lighter. You'd notice the spill more. You know, it started to seep in. It started to seep into the book, right? That somebody's going to get in shit for this, but you know, it kind of seeped into the book. We'll go, sure, that's awesome. And as we know, we're going to bind. We're going to move that coffee ring down to the pages, and we're going to Alt-Tab to the pages. So it's just a stain on the pages. We can also play around with how its opacity is. We can reduce it so it's more of a hint of a stain than an actual new stain. Alrighty. Because, you know, who would really rest the book on there? Swello, cool cat, how are you doing? Alrighty, so that's a little grungy. And now we're going to have text. Text is amazing in Photoshop. Illustrator is what the true world of text. But effectively, you click and you get your little bit of Latin, which is basically filler for what you want. I have got Dark 11 as the font currently. Fonts are important, as I was saying. Darkstone, Northumbria. Alrighty, so what we're going to do here is we're just going to have we're on red. Our colors are still based here, so we're going to change our color to hold on a second. Yeah, I just created a blank layer. Don't ever do that, guys. And trash. And why did this not get labeled? Oh well, stitching. Stitching. There we go. Stitching. All right, so we got stitching out there. And now, where was I, guys? Oh, I was doing text, but I didn't have the right thing selected. All right, so let's try this again. Text. I'm going to add some text and move that around. Change it to ye. No, that's just cheesy. Of mer and men. Of mer and men. Of mer and men. That's what we're going to have. And then we can just hit OK. And now if we add stuff while it's selected, we can make that bold. We can do a cheesy underline. Of mer and men is our little title. You can change around the size, 30. And now we can adjust it. If we click on the page, we're going to need the first page, I think. This page. If we click on that page and then control click on Of Mer and Men, the title, we can then do a nice little alignment thing again. Of Mer and Men aligned up on that page nicely. And we can also play around with mer and men. We can do a slight blending option to do, where is it? Do an overlay, because then it has more of the ink on there. But I think the best is to do a totally not that big and huge. Subtle little imprint on the paper. Just a slight little discoloration around the words to give the idea that it's being printed into this book. Just a slight. It's the little things, as I may quote from Depeche Mode. It's the little things that count. And now, of mer and men, we've had a spot that we can put our text in for chat, which will be digital. Just saying, that kind of explodes everything. So here we go, guys. We have, we're doing pretty good here. We've got our chat window. We have our beautiful Oblivion book here that we created. All right, we've got our beautiful Oblivion book just wanting to be read. And because this is ESO, we are going to have thrown on here our little ESO logo. Now, I think I'm going to start with this guy here again. And we'll close these other elements just so we're going. Drag this guy over. And bring it, and if I hold the shift button, again, I'm dragging it and I hold the shift button, it will drop it in the center of my image. Now, this actually wants the book, there we go. We want this underneath everything. So it's now placed it in the center of the image. Now, with my stone one, this image is quite obvious. If I just quickly go back to my ESO intro, it's really in your face. And I have to say that this book is a little bit more of an improvement on my original book. I'm just going to say by 100-fold. So what we're going to look at doing this time now is we are going to inset this into the leather. And again, the way we do this is through Photoshop trickery. I'm going to make it smaller, make it bigger. Because we could have the hint of it there or have it there. Let's see how it looks when we shrink it down, guys. Edit. Transform. Just scale. Alright. just hit a little bit smaller. Hit OK. And now if I basically remember that background that's locked, I said it would be useful at times. Guess what? Boop. Boop. That's what it is. It's a good enough hint. In my opinion, that's a good enough hint of the thing that's there. I might make it a bit bigger. Or do I put it down there? It just makes no sense to go there. So we're going to have that. But what we're going to do now is we're going to go to the layer. Oh, let's call it... Oh, sorry. Okay. Let me call our layer Oberus. Oberus? What's that thing called? Oberus? Obi-Wan Kenobi? You're my only hope, Obi-Wan Kenobi? Alright, so Oberus is... We're just going to call it logo. You're just going to call it logo. But what we're going to do is we're going to go to the fill opacity of the logo and reduce it down to 0. So we don't see that. And you're like, what? And then back to our bevel and emboss, we've screwed up. Reset to default. There we go. We've got the reset to default because we've been playing around with that so much. The reset to default puts me back in a default state. But if I were to do, nope, not the stroke, my pillow emboss, and bevel, yeah, we're going to do a pillow emboss for it around there. But there is contour. No. Pillow emboss. Go OK. Alright, give me a second. Pillow emboss. Style. Nope, blending options. We are going to bring that up, but it is our blending option. We're embossing it in there. Okay. But then we're going to change how it looks on top of that leather. So it's got the emboss, so it looks like it's embossed in the leather. And luminosity, no, lighten, darken. Yeah, we want our multiply dark color. And it burns. One of these guys, I know it. That's it. Alrighty, that's a vivid light. Hard mix, yeah. Just going to do it as an overlay. So, as an overlay, it looks like it's been embossed into the leather. And we can actually also, under Image, Adjustments, Hue Saturation. It's more than that. It also helps control lightness and darkness. We can increase and decrease the lightness of the overall image. There we go. So it's not as dark. So it looks like it's something that's been carved into or just added onto the leather that you're sitting on. Alright, so now we've got our spot for chat. We've got our little thing here. Now we can start adding little bits and pieces. My logo. Oh yeah, I also have this logo I was going to throw in. The good old Skyrim logo. Let's do that as well. I can't remember where I was going to put it though. I think I was going to put it on a book, but we've got that covered. And you know, it's like we don't want to have it just because we want to have it. And bring you all the way up to the top. Boom. And there we go. Overlay. It looks like a watermark. It's a subtle little watermark for my freaking chat window. Plain and simple. I'm going to adjust its positioning. Again, I grab a page, control click on the page, and then control, we already have the top layer selected, and lock and load. There we go. So now it's in the image there. That will be the chat window. And that was just a simple overlay. Now I'm going to have to go Files, Open, and I'm having to go to my Creative, and I think D&D Stream has it in there. Maritime Streamers. I want to put that on my lower corner now and not have it as a... I want to make it a permanent mark on my image. By the way, these are some of the examples of other stuff I've done as well. Some of the interfaces I did for XCOM and all that. I had a different theme going back then, my D&D based ones. Where are those? Maybe it's just in my creative folder. There she is. There's the new one. Alrighty, so we're gonna grab this and we're gonna stroll this down here. She's a huge file. Mamma mia, look at the size of that file. It's a huge file. It's a good... See? Ellie, if Ellie, you're still here, Ellie knows you design large so you can shrink it down without loss of quality. So we're going to put that as my little nod in the lower corner. But I also want to have it a little higher in case I do load up my stream avatars, which has been flaky recently. The reason I haven't. So there we go. Now, how can we have this Maritimer Streamers? That's just, well, first off, we're getting layers here. So we're going to have Skyrim logo and Maritime Streamers. And there we go. So now I've got them labeled. It's always good to label your layers because you get billions of layers and you're like, I can't remember what layer's what. So we are going to... Let's just see. No, I think if we do that, we'll just end up fading it anyways, right? So, yep. One thing I want to do with the Maritime Streamers, though, is give it a stroke. 1 point stroke on the outside. Okay, just gives it a little bit of an outline to make it stick out. So yes, Maritime Streamers will be in the lower corner. So I think this is looking pretty good so far. We've got, the only thing is we've got blank space. I hate blank space. I mean, oh, I know I forgot one other thing I wanted to do. Remember what we did earlier with the book cover? Right? We are going to go to this background and drag and drop to make a copy of that, and then Control T. They are locked. Oh, I don't want them locked because I've got to do this manually. I just realized because it's not the same shape. I'm going to bring this in. Bring it in. Now I'm doing this by eye, but you can set rulers. I've just been doing it by eye for so long. It's a thing. Should change my camera to over there, because I have it here when I'm streaming, because this is the game, this is my chat. When I'm chucking at chat, I'm here, right? But maybe when I'm designing, I should have the camera over there. I'm not sure, and then I'll get used to where the camera is. I have 2 camera setups, and I have both cameras, so you can see the side on and the front on. Is that so vanity? We're going to do that right now. All right. So we've created this little edge, and that should work. I might have to move the maritime streamers. We'll see. And go okay. And background copy. We are going to just do our, nope, not our stroke. No stroke. Not bad. But in this case, we don't want the screen as much. I think we wanted the no, I think, yeah, screen will be okay. Well, where's our light source? Light source is in the right spot. Good. There we go. That corner, though, guys. That corner. You know what we need? We need trinkets. I mean, we got lootables. We need lootables. Alright? We need lootables on the table. I'm just saying we are missing lootables. That's what we need. And, oh, I forgot. I was going to bring... Oh, before I do that, let's close some of these images up. Well, we need loot. Let's get this thrown in. And this is Elder Scrolls, blah, blah, blah. But we're not actually going to use the Oberus there. We are using the one we had on the other. But we are going to take this. Yoink. We're going to hit copy. And then we hit paste. And we've got dead center, the Elder... Oh, wow, I almost got it fitting in the circle. But the logo... We're going to have to adjust our logo's position, because technically you want to see the Elder Scrolls Online. Elder Scrolls Online, that fills that space up. But what can we do with that? ESO. ESO. Alrighty. Elder Scrolls Online. Cancel. Let's just cancel. Let's zoom in a little bit better to see this. We want an outline first off. We do want a stroke. Alright. Uh-oh. The stroke is revealed. My cutting technique was not the best, so hit OK. Let me just get... and hit delete. Oh, there's still a little bit there. Up. Delete. Delete. Oop. Nope, not enter. Delete. There we go. And Control D to deselect. Alright. Alrighty. Okay, at 100%, the 60. Also, it's a fun fact to know. You are only looking at your image properly at the following zoom resolutions: 25%, 50%, and 100%. The reason I say that is sometimes people might have it set at 60 something, or it's at, well, you don't want to have that. And for some reason the font isn't looking right, or it's looking blurry. Don't worry about it, because sometimes it's having issues rendering at off-point resolutions, but you're looking at your image at true form at 25, 50, and 100%. There's a fun note to have. So that's why I was just going to go, like, what is this guy at 100%? And it's looking nicer at 100% there. then we just scroll out. And again, if you haven't been paying attention, mouse wheel and alt button does your scrolling. Spacebar will allow you to move it around when it's actually, you know. Now let's do our maritime streamers. You know what? Maritime streamers has to look like it's just, you know, something, you know. It's like, oh yeah, by the way, so we're gonna get this old raunchy paper. It's not the same paper we're using. It's a different paper. It's another raunchy paper, but hey, it's a raunchy paper nonetheless. We're going to get that, and we're going to bring up, bang, the raunchy paper. We're just going to have like a little bang, you know, little side note here. We can actually page and page can have a inner stroke on it. Don't think the drop shadow will pick up, no. But the maritime streamers though, right click, fit on screen. Oh, give me a second, just okay. I forgot we're still in this window. Then go right click, maritime streamers logo, and let's go to its stroke and fix the stroke. Let's make that stroke 2. Make it 3, because you got a light on light scenario happening here and you want that to be seen. So let's go a 3-point thing, and if we go down, there we go. That works. And we want something visually, we want something diagonal on this. So I am thinking soul gem. Right? I am thinking soul gem ESO. I'm also going to put this into the descriptor PNG, because if I do a PNG, there's a very good chance I might get a transparent layer, and that's one of the things I'm looking for. And let's go images, and we're also going to set under settings, no, sorry, under tools, size large. What do I have up here? Soul Gem, Elder Scrolls. Okay, ESO. We're getting ESO thing. Soul Gem, Elder Scrolls. Alrighty. Somebody's making soul gems. Easy guide to soul gems. Dude, where did you get your image of a soul gem? I need that iridescence. That iridescence. It's a Skyrim soul gem. Wait. I had a project. Always remember your old projects. I think, hold on guys, I think I got this. We're gonna close this window for a second, and we're gonna get rid of the old paper here. We are going to take a peek at a previous project of mine. Open D&D stream. I know in one of my D&D streams, there it is. This was one of my D&D streams, and there's the Photoshop file. There we go, guys. Oh, hold on a second, guys. I've got to remember these fonts. PC, Celtic Narrow, and Planewalker. I forgot to grab most of my fonts from my old machine, and this sucks. The nice thing is it tells you the fonts that are missing. If Creative Cloud has a version of those fonts, it will do it for you. But and if it's a paid one, they'll let you buy it again or something. But I've got the I have to go find those fonts. But that's not what we're here for. We're here because of the Eberron campaign I was doing. I got a gem that looks very much like a soul gem, does it not? So what layer is my gem? Because I clearly labeled all my layers for this project, didn't I? Layer 2, layer 4, layers. What are you? This is an example of why you label your layers. Crystal. I did name the crystal the right layer. So let's take the crystal and take that crystal over here and throw it down here. And look at this, guys. We've got a soul gem. Alrighty. So there we go. So remember your other projects. We'll close that. Do not save. No, because I want to find that font. And look at that, guys. We have ourselves a soul gem. A kind of somewhat okay soul gem. Its drop shadow is probably going to... Let me take a look on your... Is your drop shadow following our universal? It is. It is still following our universal. It's got that slight diffuse to it. But I think I was going to put a glow on it or something. But let's play around with our soul gem. Let's turn off the constraints. Or are they turned on? Oh, they were off. I dragged that up a little bit more. Make it a little longer. Right. Have that kind of a gemish. There we go. And it is semi-transparent, by the way, guys, if you've noticed. As you can see the background in through the gem. I may want to place the gem in a spot to illustrate that. Which won't be over here. Wait, the light is shining in several ways. I think I just want to show off the semi-transparency of that gem. There we go. And let us go one step further. ESO dagger PNG images Elder Scrolls fandom. Beautiful. It's a large image. Yep, more subject to copyright. Blah blah blah. What are the subjects of copyright? Alright, cool. What is fair use? So yeah. So open image in new tab. Take our beautiful dagger. Drag it over here. Elven dagger. So there we go. And bring it up to here to make a copy. What kind of document? Wait, is this a... Hold on. It's a web page, guys. Uh-oh, it's an HTML document. We're going to delete that. And we're going to show you how to get past that error. Or not really an error. Effectively, this here is still a link to a site. So it's not really the image. So what we want to do is we go back here and we go right click and we go save image as. And then it will come up as a PNG file. We'll do splash screen, and we'll save it as a PNG file. Be careful of that. It's not really malice at times. It's you click on the image and you go right to the website. So it's like, hey, you took the image from our website. Here's a link to it, which is the wiki. Alrighty. So, bang, and now we drag that dagger up, make a copy of it, drag this to here, and now we've got a dagger to play with. I think the dagger needs to be shrunken down a little bit. Not by much, though. Probably, because I'm just trying to think of the scale of everything here. Control T. We are going to lock the proportions so it doesn't get funky walking. Don't think we need to shrink it too badly. Alrighty. And we're going to go to transform. We're going to use something called flip horizontally. We use that, and it flips the blade to look the other direction. 2 reasons. I'm picky. Look at the edge of the blade. Light is hitting that side. So I have to have the light matching in my image. It's a thing. Also, it works balance-wise. Another bullshit. Control T, do that transformation. We're going to rotate that a little bit. We're going to put this here. We're going to like throw the knife. Oh, now we got 2 things like lining up because they're lying on their side. They're both sideways. We're going to have to fix that. We're going to put the dagger like this. Actually, right. Just going to hit OK for now. Dagger. Dagger. Alright, we're going to go dagger. First thing we're going to need for the dagger, though, to give it depth, is a drop shadow. It will have a drop shadow. That is probably going to be okay for its drop shadow. Alrighty, we go okay. And that means this cool gem is not really needed at this spot. So Crystal, we're going to move you somewhere and rotate you differently. And then dagger, I'm right clicking and then choosing the layer I want to move. Looks like it's holding the book open. Should I stick the blade underneath the book? Oh, that's not good. What have I done? What have I... Oh, I put it in the wrong spot. That's why. Oops. Guys, who's active in chat right now? Should I have the blade tip under the book cover? Should I have the blade tip on the book cover? I'm torn. I is torn on which one. You know what? I'm going to get lazy and not going to drag and drop between others. I am going to create a copy of the dagger. Dagger, make a copy. Take the copy of the dagger and slide it back to where it was. Way up here, and turn off the color, and then I literally will turn one. I'll turn that off. Do you like that dagger, or do you like the dagger on the top? Now that I've moved the crystal, the dagger's position can change too. So I think we're going to keep the top layer dagger, keep the under dagger, delete that, or just drag that to the trash can. And the top dagger we're going to work with here, dagger top. Control T. We can move that. We can rotate that a bit. You know. You see, the next thing I'm working on here is balance. Image balance. Like balancing everything you've got in your image. Coins. Coins. That's the other loot item. Coins, right? We need coins. So there's another loot item for us. And I has coins in another project I did, which was my D&D stuffs. Alright, where were you? Conspiracy of Ravens. You had coins, because ravens like coins. Coins. It was feathers and coins. I visually remember I had coins with my feathers. Maybe it was so far back it was in here. It could have been. Flourishes, corner flourishes. That's what I had on my stonework. Put a copy of that in here. We're going to get to that corner flourish. I forgot. That's a nice thing to put in. Alrighty. Bum ba dum bum ba dum bum. We could make coin piles. Beep. I thought I had more. Alright. So, first off, we're grabbing the flourish. Throwing the flourish in there. Flourish is another nice one to emboss into an image. But our corners are already taken up. So what I'm thinking about is what this could be is a subtle add. Control T. Edit. Transform perspective. We go, okay. There we go. Because we did this perspective change on it. And I should be able to flourish. I should be able to drag and drop and make a copy of that flourish. And then I hold the shift button to maintain the drag is perfect. And then wish me luck on this. I'm going to flip it. I always get them mixed up, horizontally or vertically. I think I'm looking at vertical flip here. Yes, it was vertical flip. And then still holding the shift button. There we go. We're lining them up on that part. And I'm going to mouse click it a little bit to get a little bit there. Up and over. So after you've got that, I think this guy here, inlay. No, not the inlay. What was it called? Chapbook cover. No, well, I'm not getting it. There we go. Flourish. There we go. So we got the inlays here, which are both going to be just color overlay. No, I think they're normal, but fill opacity is to 0, and then oh bang, a little bevel and emboss, but it's not going to be smooth. It's going to be hard chisel. No, smooth. And depth, size, small. Oh well, change that to a steeper gradient on that. No. Inner bevel. No, it wasn't inner. We're going to hit OK for now, but we're scaling this in. What is... Yeah. Alrighty. No, I can't get the right bevel I wanted on this. So let's do a stroke. Oh no, let's do that as a stroke. There we go. And then blending modes. Oh yeah, I forgot we got our fill opacity is 0. That's what was going on. And this stroke is 8 pixels inside. Just do 2, 1, no, 21, 2, 1. There we go. There we go. Alrighty, and then we apply the same effects onto that flourish. Oh, remember what I told you guys about remember to hold down the Alt button or else you're just gonna... There we go. And that's on normal, and that's on multiply. Alright, make that one on multiply as well. Alrighty. Not sure if I want them. I don't know. Well, I'm not too sure. I don't like these that much. I'm just going to turn them off so they're not gone. They're still there as options if I want to use them. But I think, there we go, guys. We've gone from nothing to a new Elder Scrolls title that I can use for next time I'm streaming in OBS. We'll be done. Rather than an hour long, today's session was a nice 3 hours and almost 30 minutes. So I think I'll be bringing it to an end here. This will probably be the official first episode, as I didn't like the first. I was too It was not that good of a first episode. But this I feel more good on. More good on. That's awesome. So thank you very much for watching, those that have been. This will be uploaded to my YouTube channel. Link is down below with all my other links. And next week, I will come up with another project and work it. Those that are in my Discord, !Discord, can start throwing suggestions or ideas. What would you like to see, and what would you like to learn about, as I will continue to expand and show you more tips and tricks of Photoshop. Thank you very much for watching, everyone. And until next week, well, I'll be on tomorrow with some game of some sorts. I haven't decided. Friday's my whatever type of game. It might be Elder Scrolls, I'll be honest. I've been hooked a bit. Could be Division. Could be Division. Might be a Division night too. But I will post more on my Twitter when I know what I'm doing for Friday. And then Saturday is Elder Scrolls. So take care, everyone. And I hope you have a great night. And thank you for watching.